listening yet? That's okay.
So Mark, are we ready? Are we ready to go, Mark? Okay. I think we are here and ready to go, and it's 5:30. So how about if we start our city council meeting? I see a number of people in the audience today, and thank you guys for joining us, both in present and those online. So we have the wonderful privilege of opening our city council meetings with prayer, and I'm so thankful to have Kelly Sears here with Christian Faith Center. Kelly, thank you for opening us in the prayer and pledge, and let's stand as she comes.
Thank you for the wonderful opportunity, Mayor and City Council members. I wanted to encourage you with a quick scripture. In Colossians chapter 3, it says, "Work willingly at whatever you do, as though you were working for the Lord rather than for people. Remember that the Lord will give you an inheritance as your reward, and that the master you are serving is Christ." It just made me think of all of you public servants and the wonderful diligence and faithfulness that you show to our community, and how much we appreciate you. And I do believe there will be a reward for your diligence. And I just want to pray that blessing over you. Father, we just come to you in the name of Jesus, and we just thank you for a community filled with such loving, committed, devoted people. Lord, not just to their work, but also to those that they serve. Father, I just pray that you would command a blessing over them, that, Lord, there would be a reward for their diligence and their faithfulness. We as a Christian community cannot express how grateful we are for these servants, and we thank you for them, and we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kelly, thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, here.
Bruner.
Here.
Jingula.
Here.
Reynolds.
Here.
Hammerfield.
Here.
All present.
I am not aware at this time of any proposed amendments to the agenda. Council, do you have any proposed amendments of the to the agenda? And I want to ask along with that, is there anything you want to pull off the consent agenda to place anywhere else? Okay, seeing none, I would ask for a motion to adopt the agenda as it's presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The next item is our consent agenda, and I would stand for a motion to approve the consent agenda as submitted in the packet.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. I'll let you choose who moved and who seconded.
I'll second it.
Dale. Okay, Victor moved, Dale
Thank you.
seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. We do have a proclamation tonight, and you know what, this is Parks and Rec Month, and I think, is Carrie here? Is Carrie the one? Hi- Oh, we should, oh, I'm sorry. Hi, Jennifer. Well, feel free to come forward as I read the proclamation. So whereas parks and recreation programs are an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Nampa, Idaho, and whereas our parks and recreation are vitally important to establishing and maintaining the quality of life in our communities, ensuring the health of all of our citizens, and contributing to the economic and environmental well-being of a community and region. And whereas parks and recreation programs build healthy, active communities that aid in the prevention of chronic disease, provide therapeutic recreation services for those who are mentally and physically disabled, and also improve the mental and emotional health of all citizens. Whereas parks and recreation programs increase a community's economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of the local tax base, increased tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas parks and recreation areas are fundamental to the environmental well-being of our community. And whereas parks and natural recreation areas improve water quality, they protect groundwater, prevent flooding, improve the quality of air we breathe, provide vegetative buffers to development, and produce habitat for wildlife. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas ensure the ecological beauty of our community and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month. And whereas Nampa recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Debbie Kling, hereby proclaim July to be recognized as Parks and Recreation Month. Jennifer, thank you for being here tonight, and thank you, Darren. Thank you guys all for being here tonight. And we are so pleased with our parks program and all that takes place. So thank you for your work. But go ahead and share with us.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council members. I'm Jennifer Ayala, and I work for the Parks and Recreation Department. I know I've come and talked to you guys the past couple years about July's National Parks and Rec Month, and it is so exciting to celebrate all that we have going on. This year, we are focusing on where community grows is our theme. So I just wanted to share a few things with you guys. According to NRPA's engagement with Parks report, 84% of U.S. adults seek high-quality parks and recreation when choosing a place to live. And 9 in 10 people agree parks and recreation is an important service provided by their local government. We know that Nampa Parks and Recreation Services make a difference in our community and matter to the residents in Nampa. We reached out to several Nampa residents, and we will be highlighting some of their stories on our Facebook and social media accounts. We wanted to hear and share their stories about how these facilities have created community and impacted their lives. We interviewed a group of moms, for example, that did not know each other, but they met at Midway Park and have formed a group that now takes their kids to the park to play each week. We heard the same story from a group of dog lovers who got to know each other just from going to Amity Dog Park, and now they have regular outings. Our parks are a place where people find community and make Nampa a great place to live. We're also excited to share the new development in Nampa Parks. So last summer we opened the first free splash pad in Nampa, and we heard from residents this was a very appreciated amenity for the community. This summer we'll be adding a second free splash pad at Midway Park planned for later this summer. We also have an outdoor fitness gym and multi-purpose basketball futsal court coming to Midway Park. Coming in spring 2024, we're planning to open a new off-leash dog park in Nampa. This park will be a great addition to the park system, and it'll include water features, grass area, and walking paths. Parks has also been working with the Public Works Department to extend the Stoddard Pathway from Amity Avenue to 2nd Street. With this addition, Stoddard Pathway now extends over 3 miles from Locust Lane to 2nd Street in Nampa. And at Ora Brandt Park, we just installed a new disc golf course and rose garden that recently opened, and we'll also be opening a pickleball, basketball, picnic shelter, and baseball fields, all planned in the next year. The construction at these parks is very exciting, and the residents of Nampa cannot wait for these new amenities. Thank you for allowing me to share. Do you guys have any questions?
Council, do you have any questions? Just a huge thank you. Thank you guys for your work. There's a lot to maintain out there. I really appreciate also the vision. We're near the completion of the master plan for our parks, which is way exciting.
Very excited. Yes.
So just great work. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Thanks so much. Oh, and here's your proclamation. I'm sorry. I should give that to you. Thank you. Okay. So the next item on the agenda is the public forum, which is an opportunity for Nampa residents to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item. And as we get started, our first person is going to be our internal, Amy Bowman.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Amy Bowman, Director of Communications for the City of Nampa. And I just very briefly wanted to introduce you to our new staff person, Saira Gillum. Did I say that correctly? Good. And she is the new communication specialist within the City of Nampa. As you know, we are growing and we have a dedication to be transparent and timely with our community, and we needed help to do those things. And so Sai is going to help, among many other things, she'll eventually help really lead some of our social media initiatives. So Sai, why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Amy, and thank you, Mayor and City Council members. I am very excited to join the Mayor's office, and it is an incredible honor. I consider Nampa my home. Ever since my childhood, I've lived here, and although we moved around a little bit, I've been very glad and blessed to move back to Nampa. I went to college at NNU and graduated there. I graduated there this spring, and I worked at Parks and Recreation for several months of my senior year and learned a little bit more about the city. And being able to now join the Mayor's office is just an incredible blessing, and I am looking forward to giving back to the city and our community, as I appreciate what all of you have done. So thank you.
Sai, thank you so much. It's so great to have you on board. So we're thrilled to have you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Okay,
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone else signed up for the public forum.
okay. Is there anyone that had intended to sign up that did not get signed up? Okay, seeing none, we do not have any agency reports. Staff communications, Tom Points. Jeff Barnes. Just quick change there. Hi, Jeff.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Jeff Barnes, Director of Water Resources, standing in for Senior Director Tom Points. As you know, maybe don't know, the City of Nampa has the largest full-service public works department in the state, and I think we have a great team. Tom has led the effort for several years of developing a positive, productive, innovative workforce in our team, and a couple of updates and announcements in relation to that. First one is Crystal Craig is going to come up with Dustin Gilmore, and we were given two more awards that she's going to talk about, and that we recruited Crystal too to be on the team has been fantastic. I think that represents what's happening in our public works department. And then Daniel's going to follow up with an update on our capital improvements plan. So with that, I'll hand it off to Crystal.
Thank you, Jeff. Good evening, Crystal.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Jeff, thanks for the shout out. I keep reminding Tom all the time that I'm still in probation. Got about 6 weeks or so left, so fingers crossed. Council members, you guys saw me up here in May to talk about our Name That Snowplow award that we got for WTS. We got the Innovative Transportation Solutions, and we have now won our second award for that. It is right here for our Name That Snowplow initiative. We were selected the winner in the Innovative Project category for LTAC's 2023 Build a Better Mousetrap category. Because of this, not only did we get this nifty little plaque, so it's our second plaque for it, but we were also awarded a free course through their T2 training center, so we're looking forward to taking advantage of that and sending our entire crew out to go learn something new. And we were also put in for the National Build a Better Mousetrap competition, so I will let you know what the results are coming for that soon. With that, I want to introduce Dustin Gilmore, who's over here to talk about our second award.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Dustin Gilmore, the Safety and Training Coordinator for Public Works for the City of Nampa. We were also put into another category for the transportation, and we stood up a commercial driver's license in-house training program. And we were awarded that because it was a way that we could save a significant cost to the employees and the city itself. instead of sending all of our drivers out to get their commercial driver's license from a third party, we actually perform that in-house now. The street department is the one that is facilitating that. We have people that are signed up as instructors, and fleet service, traffic, and parks have all benefited from that. We run a program in the spring and in the fall where they bring all their employees that need CDLs to them. They take care of all the in-house, the driver's training, and get them ready to take their written test and their road test. The great benefit for us was we were able to save money. We don't have to hire people that have CDLs for these positions. We can now expand our employee pool, get their programs in-house. And for us, it's great because these guys getting their CDLs are practicing on the equipment that they're going to eventually operate. So all their hands-on experience comes straight with the equipment they're running. As they get to the part where they do their road test, we get another benefit to it because now as they're moving materials from place to place, we can do that with our people getting their training. So we don't just lose someone for 2 to 3 weeks on their training. We're actually keeping it all in-house and utilizing them while they're getting their training done. And because of this, we've actually had other agencies reach out to us and ask us how we did it so they can get their own programs going. At first, they were wanting to know if we could partner, but it's a pretty good undertaking just to take care of our own staff. So we have all that information together, and we're helping other agencies stand up their programs. And as of date, we have trained 15 employees to get their CDLs.
Good for you. Congratulations. That is awesome.
Thank you. I just want to say, it's an honor to work for the city of Nampa, especially Public Works under Tom's guidance. We're obviously doing great things, and so it's really exciting that we get to stand up in front of you all and share all of these wins for the entire city of Nampa. So thank you for that opportunity. With that, I'd like to have Dan Badger come up. He's going to give a capital projects update. I hope I said that right. I don't remember what Daniel's going to talk
Thank you, Crystal.
about.
I don't think you have to be nervous for the next 6 weeks. I think you're good. Yeah. Thank you, Dustin. Great, great work. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, this is our project dashboard delivery for the second quarter. We're obviously just ending the third quarter, but this is the report out for our second quarter on the construction. So this year we have 20 major projects that we're tracking with $34 million in value. There's the map showing the various locations as you've seen previously. This year, our current numbers, we're sitting at almost 60% designs completed, 45% awarded, and 31% constructed at this point for the quarter two. Looking at that in comparison with last year, we're sitting very similar numbers, a little bit slower on the construction, but anticipating with these summer months and the final 2 quarters, as always, we do most of our construction during that time frame. This is our cost avoidance for the year. Includes the majority of stuff is in-house design. We've been utilizing some of our interns that we've had for some projects with Tom and Mark Stoyer, doing some geotechnical mentoring with them to help do some stuff on stormwater, as well as then inspection by our in-house inspectors to help avoid those costs. There's project team as always, and any questions?
Council, do you have any questions?
Okay.
Other than great work, I tell you what, not only do we have the largest full-service public works department, but we have the best in the state of Idaho. So I am so proud of our team. We have an amazingly great team. Thank you, guys. And that said, I have also said that we have the best police department in the state of Idaho and probably one of the best in the United States. Which takes us to new business. Item number 1, item 7.1, is an action item, and this is actually to accept the resignation of Police Chief Joe Huff, effective July 17th. And I've asked our Police Chief to come forward and share a few words with us.
Yes, well, thank you. Good evening. So this is a little awkward. I've obviously never done this before, but you all have my retirement letter in your packet there. There's a couple things I just wanted to mention tonight. The first one is just the support that you as a council has shown me in the police department. I can't thank you enough for that. And then for Mayor Kling, you know, like I said in my letter, it takes a true leader to teach others and to trust others, and that's something that the mayor has done for me my whole career that I've worked for her. It's actually been the best job in the police department, being the police chief. I know if you talk to a lot of chiefs, they actually don't enjoy this position, but quite honestly, this is the best spot I've ever had at the city of Nampa. A lot of that's because of you and because of the council and the support and trust that you've shown me. So saying that, also it's the employees, right, that we have at the city, and like the mayor said, I'm pretty biased, but I believe Nampa Police Department is the best police department in the nation. It's clearly obvious, you know, that as we're growing, we're maintaining our values, and I think that's super important. I know tonight you're going to talk about Deputy Chief Schenkel, you know, taking over to my spot in the interim position, and I can assure you there's no better person than Kurt Schenkel to do that. I have full confidence in what he's doing. I'm leaving the police department, at least in my opinion, in great hands. We have no issues. We have good folks there, and I know that Kurt will do a great job taking it to the next level. One thing, you know, that I didn't put in my letter that I just wanted the council to be aware of, it's been pretty humbling over the last 24 hours or so when this became in the paper and on the news, was the amount of support from the community that I've got. I've had dozens and dozens and dozens of morning, night phone calls, text messages, and emails just with the community wanting to thank me for the job that you know, that I've done, and so it's been very, very humbling. Not a guy that really likes to you know, acknowledge that, but it's also gave me an opportunity, I guess, to realize there is a bill out there that passed this last year in the legislature. It's Senate Bill 1054, and basically what that bill does, it allows somebody that hits the rule of 80, which I've hitten, or I've met, to take a 30-day break in service and then reconsider some options. And so that's something, you know, I just wanted the council to be aware of, that I am going to take, you know, 30 to 45 days off, kind of see what this retirement gig's all about, and then you know, there's other options for me out there. So, but I just wanted to take the time tonight just to thank you guys, because you're the ones that has made this the best job for me and the employees that work for Nampa Police Department.
Chief, it's been 30 years well served. You've done a really good job, and I tell you, we just appreciate you greatly. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. So our action item tonight is actually because a chief is an appointed position. So as council, we need to officially accept his letter of retirement, and then at the same time, which is effective July 17th, and also improve the designation of Deputy Chief Kurt Schenkel to serve as the interim police chief. And so, Kurt, thank you for your willingness to step up. We appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you, Mayor, Council.
You're welcome. So actually, at that, I would stand for a motion from council.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I would move that we accept Chief Huff's resignation letter and the designation of Deputy Chief Kurt Schenkel's interim. And as long as you remember us when you're out there on your yacht.
Absolutely.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Brunner.
Yes.
Ingula.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Reluctantly, yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
And just in case there are any questions, I just want, from a public standpoint, for everyone to know that we're going to be taking, and I think, Kurt, you're aware of this, the next 30 to 45 days to give consideration to our next steps, and let Chief think about retiring, and then we'll move forward from there. So,
All right, thank you very much.
Chief, thank you. Appreciate it. I agree. Well, we have a couple of minutes here to actually move forward with our action items, so let's see if we can get them done. So item 7.2 is an action item. This is to award the bid and authorize the mayor to sign the construction contract with Terraco Excavation and Demo LLC for the Fort Idaho Center Horse Park RV Spaces project for the not-to-exceed amount of $1,302,473.05.
Mayor Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
But it has been approved by legal, and it is approved in the FY23 and 24 budgets.
I'll make the motion to award bid and authorize mayor to sign the construction contract with Terraco Excavation and Demo LLC for the Fort Idaho Center Horse Park RV Spaces project for active not to exceed in the amount of $1,302,473.05.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I had, just in our packet, the contract, like it if we could designate the owner's representative as the project management professional that the city has employed, and let them be the owner's rep instead of Andrew Luther. Andrew's very capable at what he does, but he's not a construction manager, so. Correct. Yeah, that'd be great.
I will accept that and change my motion to include that.
Second.
Brenner,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Hammerfield,
Yes.
Jingula,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just to be clear, this approval is pursuant to the receipt of the funds, and it's stated here, so I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware that it's not a funded project at this point.
That's fine, Madam Mayor. I understand that they were intending to make a decision by the end of June. I don't know if they've made one yet, if this is the same project I'm thinking of.
Madam Mayor, council members, this is a two-part type thing. So 7.3 is actually the approval for us to get the money from the FAA. So we have to get approval from you first before they can write the check. And then 7.4 will be for us to hire the contractor once we get the money.
Right, and that's my point. We can't really fund it. If it's not funded yet, we can't authorize the construction until the funding becomes available.
Yes, sir. Councilman Haverfield, it was approved in our CIP. So, the money is there. We just can't receive it until we have approval.
So the FAA money will go replace money that's being chosen to be used for this, that might be designated for something else then?
So generally what happens is it's a reimbursement. So we front the money and then they pay us at the end.
Is that for all FAA projects?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Brenner,
Yes.
Hammerfield,
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Follows right along with this one, and this is an action item to authorize the mayor to sign the contract with Western Refinery Services for Federal Aviation, that same grant, AIP 38, to install the perimeter fence at the Nampa Municipal Airport in the amount of $103,801. It was reviewed and approved by legal, and it is in the 23 budget. Crystal, so this is where you were just saying that the prior motion is just, once we say yes, we authorize receipt of the funds, they give us the funds, and that we have gone through the process, and now we're ready to award the bid.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any question on that? Yes.
So for clarity, Again, we're approving the installation of this using the funds that are already been designated in the CIP.
Yes.
So if the money doesn't come from the FAA, we're still funding this project.
So the FAA awarded it already to us. We haven't received the funds.
That statement wasn't made yet, so if it's been awarded, then that answers my question.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. So I would stand for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. Item 7.5 is an action item. This is to authorize the police department to spend funds as outlined in the agreement for the 2023 pre-prosecution diversion grant in the amount of $250,000.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.6 is an action item, and this is to authorize the mayor to sign a cooperative agreement between the City of Nampa and Idaho Transportation Department that defines signal operations and maintenance functions of ITD and the City of Nampa on ITD facilities. And this has been reviewed and approved by legal.
Mayor, I do have a question on this one.
Okay.
Is that Crystal? Sorry.
Yep. Thank you for coming up,
So
Crystal.
just, and it may be in the packet, and maybe I missed it. What is this going to save us then? Yeah, do we have a projection?
Councilman Brunner, we have already been maintaining and operating the signals for ITD for about the past 5 or 6 years, so this is just an agreement for them to pay us.
So do we know what that approximate amount? I mean, I realize that they can negotiate if they feel like it's not fair. I did read that, but.
So it is paid proportionally based on the number of lanes that come up to each of the existing intersections. So if they have 3 approach lanes on one leg and we have 2 approach legs, they will pay 3/5 of the cost of operating and maintaining
And
that
do we
signal.
know approximately what that would be
It
for the benefit
varies.
of the city?
I want to say it's about $1,000 a signal per year to operate one, and it depends if the cabinet gets hit
And we
or
have how many ITD signals?
36.
So about 36,000 a year is what the estimate is, my math is somewhat correct.
If nothing bad happens to the signal, yeah.
All right, thanks. Sounds like a good deal. Appreciate it. Thanks for whoever thought of the idea of asking for reimbursement. Who was that?
I don't know. This has been in the works for a little while. It's taken a while to get through
I thought you
ITD
might want to
legal.
take credit that helped that.
You have your probation.
I'm
Okay, I
still in
give you the
probation. I should have
opportunities.
taken
Okay.
credit.
One of our core values is integrity. Yeah, good at that. Thank you, Crystal. So I would stand for a motion. If
Mayor.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 7.7 is an action item, and this is to authorize the Public Works to submit a project proposal application for Nampa's Vulnerable User Identification and Safety VIS demonstration project for the U.S. Department of Transportation Safe Streets for All Demonstration Grant Funding Program, and authorize the mayor to draft and sign a letter of commitment for the project. Any questions on that?
No, but I'll make the motion to approve. How's that?
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for both items. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you, Crystal. Item 7.8 is an action item. This is to authorize the city engineer to sign an agreement for deferral of sidewalk and curb and gutter construction for 1321 Madison Avenue LLC. Would you like Daniel to speak to this? Or just someone?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
7.9 is an action item to authorize the engineering staff to continue with right-of-way negotiations for property acquisition required to construct the Franklin Boulevard and Karcher Road intersection improvements project up to the amount of $776,000. $450,000 was previously approved in the FY23 budget.
Mayor.
Go ahead, Daniel. We'll save that motion and we'll.
Mayor, I'm sorry, you misspoke. You said
I?
776,000.
Oh, 470.
It's 400. We're only asking for an additional $26,000. We have just a couple of more to finish up the negotiations on, and so it's a small amount there.
I almost said it's only another 26,000, anyway.
Trying to give it to you.
Yeah.
So, Mayor, if I may.
Thank you for that correction.
So Daniel, we feel like this is a done deal. That's the top.
Yes, we
as
are
far as
down to the
negotiating.
last couple and are comfortable that this will get us across the
So
finish
they
line.
pretty much have given us a thumbs up then.
We are down to one that we have the thumbs up and one that we are still working through, but we're confident in the dollar value there.
Yeah, otherwise, you'll just pocket it out of your pocket.
It just goes back into the construction fund if we don't
It goes back to
spend
that
it here.
integrity thing that we're talking about.
I'm talking about him paying the difference if it goes over.
Oh, there we go. Okay, so just for go ahead.
Thank you. I just want to make sure, this is regarding private property of one of the owners, correct?
These are right-of-way acquisitions, so acquisition of private property for the construction of the improvements of the intersection.
Okay, and the private owners have agreed to this amount?
We are not finalized on all property owners. We're still in negotiation with a couple. So yes, we have signed of the 10, I believe we have 8 already signed, one that's very close to being signed and one that we're still working on.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So just to be clear, the motion is to approve right-of-way negotiations up to the amount of $476,000 from the original $450,000.
Correct.
So moved, as stated and clarified.
Thank you.
Mayor,
It's been moved and seconded. Is there further discussion?
I just had a quick clarification question for Daniel. I think I know the answer here, but Daniel, I believe this is only part of the cost for this intersection, correct? This is just the right-of-way.
Correct. This is just the right-of-way acquisition. The construction fund, it's funded through a freight grant.
Right.
And so this is just the right-of-way portion of that.
So the total cost of this could go up or higher or lower than your original estimations, but we're not there yet.
For the construction of the intersection, yes, that is.
Okay,
We
great.
don't have a final number on that. We haven't put it out to bid yet.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez.
No.
Brunner.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Jingula.
Yes.
4 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries.
So that concludes our new business items, and at this time, we will move on to our public hearings. Our first public hearing this evening is an action item. This is 8.1 on the agenda, and this is annexation and zoning map amendment from duplex residential and limited multifamily residential to only limited multifamily residential zoning district, and this is at 508 East Hawaii Avenue. This is for Ideal Custom Homes representing Marla Dean, and that's it. So is our applicant here this evening? Good evening. Go ahead and come forward and give us your name and your address, and thank you for sharing the project with us.
Hi, yeah, my name is Marla Dean. I actually live in Caldwell at 15181 Wicklow Lane in Caldwell, but this is my parents' property. They moved here in 1965 from Montana. They bought that property in 1966, and I was born and raised there. My mother passed away in February of 2020, and my dad passed away just last July. So my siblings and I have been trying to decide what to do with the estate, and in doing so, we found out that it had split zoning. So the front part, the 0.48 acres is RD, and I think the back part is the RML. So in order to kind of clean up the zoning, we were asking to get the zoning changed to the completely RML. We had an original applicant, Ideal Custom Homes. They're no longer working with us on the 17 lot site plan, but we do have other people that are interested in developing into multi-family units. So we would like to go ahead and continue moving on with the rezone. So that's all. Any questions? Sir?
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions at this time? Okay. So since you probably haven't been here before,
No.
the next item is that we'll have a staff report, and they'll share similar information, and then we open up a public hearing.
Okay.
And then if they're, at the conclusion of that public hearing, if there is someone to testify, we'll ask you to come back up.
Okay.
So you might just make note of any comments or questions that come forward and be thinking about the answers, and we'll give you the final comments, and then we'll close.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you, thank you. Rodney?
Hello, Mayor and Council. Rodney Ashby for the record. Just wanted to point out on the bottom of this screen, the Nampa Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend approval of this zoning map amendment on May 9th. And it included all the proposed conditions and the formal findings that are in your packet. So there's the site. I should have clarified that location. Hopefully everybody can see that pretty well. St. Alphonsus on the left and 12th Avenue, and then Hawaii, of course, and Harvard Recreation Center to the very bottom of the screen there. So after looking at the comprehensive plan, the zoning code, and considering the findings that were proposed by the Planning and Zoning Commission, staff does find that this meets the conclusions of law as set forth in 10.2.3c. These are all in your packet, of course. As has been mentioned, this is the location, South Juniper Street and Hawaii Avenue. The comprehensive plan shows this as high-density residential. We don't have a lot of open spaces with high-density residential, but this is one of them. A little closer view of that. And then the zoning that's in place as has been described. It's one parcel with two zones, so it's an attempt to clean that up. To the north is the Aspen Park Apartments, which is zoned RML, and multiple family residential zone. To the south is White Pine Apartments, it's RP zone. To the east are apartments and RML zoning, as well as a single family home that's zoned RD. And then to the west is senior apartments, also zoned RML. Utilities are available in Hawaii Avenue. And this is just an aerial view of the property. This is the proposed concept plan. They'll have to come back and do a plat. And at that time, we would go through the specifics of this plan for open space requirements and size of lots and all of that. But this is just a concept plan that they've presented in the packet.
So Rodney, can we pause right there?
You bet.
My understanding from the applicant was that they're no longer working with the initial developer, Ideal Custom Homes, but they wanted to move forward with the annexation zoning map amendment, but that they're no longer. So should this even be taken into consideration since this isn't part of the request?
That's a great question. That was news to me as well. I spoke to them last week, and I hadn't heard that Ideal Custom Homes was not a part of the application anymore. So that's probably a question you need to ask the developer or the property owner and get their take on what exactly they're proposing for this development, if it's still townhomes. This is a general layout, not intended to lock it into place, but yeah, that's certainly a question you need to ask them.
So I guess just from a legal perspective, if they're asking, they said they wanted to move forward with the annexation zoning map amendment and get that cleaned up, but not that they're not moving forward. So tonight, can our vote be strictly on the zoning map amendment and leave the other out, or what do we do with that?
So, Madam Mayor, I think I can clearly state the answer to that. There is only one application before you, and that is the zoning map amendment. There's no annexation and there's no plat. This was intended to be a future plat, so you could move forward with a zoning map amendment.
Okay, and the action item, it says annexation, zoning map
Oh,
amendment.
that was a mistake.
Okay, that's why I keep saying that, because that's
Oh.
what the action item is stated in our packet.
Let me go back to the action item.
It says annexation zoning map amendment from RD and RML to only RML.
I'm not sure why it says that. That wasn't on the notice in the paper or anything.
Okay.
Somehow that word got placed in there
Okay, so
somewhere.
this has nothing to do with annexation. This is strictly a
Correct.
zoning map amendment. And actually, tonight, we would take into consideration just the zoning map amendment and leave it at that. Is that a fair statement? Okay, thank you for that clarity.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Yes.
So Rodney, what portion of the property is RML and what is the RD?
The RML is the pink or the salmon colored, and the RD is the yellowish orange color on the bottom.
So the density in the RD, is it, what is the density allowed compared to the RML?
The density in the RD is a medium density range. So you can go up to the 8 dwelling units per acre. RML goes beyond that. So,
Okay, so 8 is, you can go beyond 8, though.
in the RML zone.
Thank you.
So these, again, I'm not sure if these still apply or not, but this would be a question for them, their elevations. Traffic, though it's unlikely to warrant a traffic impact study, that would be handled if it did at the time of the plat or at a building permit, if there's no plat. So this is the schedule of district land uses, and if they continue with townhomes, or townhouses, I should say, 5 or more units, then that is a permitted use in the RML zone. Yep.
Excuse me, could we pause there, right there? I noticed tiny house accessory structure is also permitted in that. And so I think that's important for us to look at, because can we put a development agreement with this?
You can. With a rezone, you can.
Okay. Because I think that's something that we would need to consider as a council if we're interested, if they chose to go with a tiny house, something, if that's not something that we want there, then we would need to address that in a development agreement. Am I correct on that?
Madam
Because
Mayor-
it is an allowable use, a tiny house
That's
accessory
an
structure.
accessory structure. So if you had a single-family home and you wanted to put an accessory dwelling unit in the back that's not
tiny house,
rented
okay.
out with an extra address or anything, you could use a tiny house on that if it had a foundation. So that's what that is referring to.
Okay. Thank you.
These are all the codes related to, as you mentioned, the development agreement. You can put a development agreement on this for a rezone, and those conditions are up to you as long as they are connected and they have a nexus to the project and its impact. These are the communications we've received, just basic communications from building department and engineering. And I put those conditions that engineering listed here as the proposed conditions of the project. There's the request. Essentially, it is fairly consistent with the area, with multifamily in the area already. As well as RML zoning, essentially in multiple directions from this property. And then the comprehensive plan, I just included there the description for high-density residential, which this falls under that high-density residential designation on the comp plan. These are the proposed conditions of approval. Those are essentially the engineering's requests. The proposed findings, I've listed all of these out in your packet. I'm happy to go through them, but I'm going to skip over them unless you direct me to. Those are 5 different conditions or criteria that you must find apply to this project if you were to approve it. And here are some potential motions for your consideration. I think I also included the permitted uses. So if there are concerns about the permitted uses you want to look at for the development agreement, you could look at this chart and describe which ones you're concerned about. And I would stand for any questions.
Mayor Kling?
Yes.
So Rodney, looking at this development, it does say townhouse, so they do plan on having individual lot lines between each of the units, is that correct?
That was the intention at time of application. Again, I think if we go back to the very first slide, we have changed that in case there are changes that you make or the applicant makes at the time of the public hearing. So under original concept, this was to apply the RML zone to the entire parcel in order to develop the property as townhouses in the future. That is not a part of the official request before you. That is just their concept at this point. That's what they would like to do at time of application.
Okay, since this is in our packet and we are looking at it, the intention is that they could go this direction. So that's why I'm has
That was the
prompted this
intention.
question. So if it is developed with townhouses, individual ownership potential, is this under the International Building Code or the International Residential Code as far as the development standards that will be required? The reason I'm asking the
looking for
question
Patrick.
is due to the parking requirements that are placed on a commercial development versus a residential individual subdivision with individual home ownership.
Yeah.
Rodney?
Mayor and council, I'm not sure I can answer that definitively.
I think I can.
Okay.
So if it's townhomes, just single unit attached townhomes, then it would be under the International Residential Code,
Okay.
not the International Building Code. So the requirement for handicap parking and all of that type of stuff would not apply in a townhome scenario.
So the ADA requirement is eliminated, but what about the guest parking spaces that Natalie pushes for?
Right. So I can respond to that, Mayor and Councilman Haverfield. So that would apply. That was just recently adopted to require half a parking space per unit. So the total number of units that they come up with, we'd have to total that up and then divide it by 2, and that's the number of parking spaces they'd have to provide in guest parking. So at time of platting, that's what they'll have to do. They'll have to show that they meet all our conditions for parking and open
So
space.
this plat as presented would not be approved anyway, as it's.
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
So Mayor, clarification, that'd be a whole nother public hearing we're talking about. All we're talking about here is
That's correct.
rezoning. So we're getting kind of, I guess, beyond is my point, so.
Correct.
Right.
A plat comes back for a public hearing, and at that time, we analyze all those details. At this point, you're looking at it for a rezone, and that is the decision you need to make.
Very good, thanks.
Mayor Kling?
The only thing with the rezone, though, that's where that development agreement comes in. And I was looking in my packet, and I'm not seeing all the different uses in the packet, unless I'm
I
missing
can
it.
go back to this.
If you could go back to that page that had all the various, not that one, the other one that you said it's in your packet, that has all the different, that one,
That one there, yeah.
right there. I don't see that in my packet.
Yeah, I
Maybe
actually, I don't know if I said that it was in your packet. If I did, I
think you did.
misspoke.
Yeah.
So I put this in here because I found that it wasn't in your packet.
So I think it might be important for us to take that into consideration. For example, I just noticed manufactured homes are actually allowed. Is a manufactured home tiny house accessory structures, tiny house principal residences? I think it's important that we take a look at what these say real quickly, just to make sure that as we do rezone it, that we don't have an allowable use that we don't want there. Like a golf course and a country club.
Top, so
A zoo.
it's putting Top Golf there, okay. There we go.
For the small course.
Yeah. Actually, I just think, council, this is actually your decision, but it's just important to take a quick look at what's there, and is there anything that we need to note in a development agreement at the time?
So, I mean, I'm council age thing, but I'm not able to read what's on that screen there if it's not in our packet. So is there, is there a way we can get a copy of that, or?
You bet.
Or
I
can
can
you
print
expand
that out
expand
while
it?
you're doing testimony.
Okay.
I'll go print it out.
Rodney, we don't have anyone signed up to testify. And so maybe let's leave it up there, and maybe we'll have the applicant during this open public hearing come and talk about what the intended development is, and maybe that'll help us, but maybe we then need to, maybe we can do it in a proactive stance that this is what we're doing.
What, your glasses?
Glasses.
Is that for far sight?
No, but
Or I could just walk down there and get on my knees.
Well, Mayor, Rodney, why don't you just read it?
Okay.
Go through it real quickly.
Permitted uses, accessory dwelling, detached, accessory use or building. I might just jump in this because, Mayor, you're exactly right. The applicant may already have, maybe they're pursuing townhouses already, and we just need to state that as in the development agreement, the townhouses are the use. That might be.
That would save a lot of time.
That's what I'm thinking is the easiest way, is to talk about what the intended use is, not to go through all those. Yes?
If I can just follow up with Councilman Bruner's point to me that I'm getting into the weeds. The reason I'm getting into the weeds is so the applicant knows that the plat that was in their packet is not approvable.
Right.
So moving forward, she needs to be working with you to make sure that she's hitting those standards that we've adopted at this council level.
That's correct.
That's
And
the
that
reason I
was
made
the
the
communication we had with Ideal Homes, that would need to be taken care of at time of plat. And they understood that, but I don't know about the applicant now.
Okay.
Thanks for that clarification.
Yes, go ahead, Clerk.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor. Maybe Deputy Chief Schenkel can put some light in this, but I believe we had two people that wanted to do public testimony.
Yes, they just went out to see if they could still sign up.
Oh, they don't have to do that?
They don't have to sign up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Deputy
I'm
Chief,
happy
I'm
to
sorry,
read
Rick,
those.
could you help him, because he shouldn't have to be doing that. Thank you. If you could just step aside and help at the back, that way we can, yeah, thank you.
I'm happy to read these if, after you've heard from the applicant,
Thank you.
we need to.
Okay. I would like to, at this time, have the applicant, this is not the typical order, but I'd love to have you come back now before we step into public hearing and actually tell us what the intended use is, and that might help us.
Well, okay, so the intended use is to make it something pretty, something that would honor my parents. So townhomes, something that looked nice. We were working with Ideal Custom Homes. They initially helped me out with this because I have no idea, obviously, what I'm doing. So, and they had this beautiful idea of townhomes. We have since listed it, or want to list it, with a realtor instead of going that direction. That is why we changed it. All we're running to do right now is just get the zoning to make it a complete package for somebody that is interested in purchasing it. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like, but I know it's not going to be something that is underrated for my parents. So I wanted to look nice. And like I said, we've talked with the realtors that have had interest in it. My dad used to get calls on it all the time to get people to sell it, to develop it. He never wanted to sell it because he had his cows back there, which he still has a few. We still have a few, but the idea is just to clean it up, just make it look so we can sell it, basically have more interest in it, already this step being taken. So that's where we're at. I don't know what else to tell you about that.
Well, that's a good answer. That's a good start. Thank you
Okay.
so much. I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you. Appreciate the clarity. So this is a public hearing, and I think we have someone signed up. Are they signed up, or do we just want to call them up?
Madam Mayor, we have at least one person that signed up. We may have another person that would like to testify. The first person is Lincoln Haygood.
Haygood. Good evening. Go ahead and restate your name and your address for us. Thank you.
Lincoln Haygood, 4815 South Fern Street, Nampa, Idaho, 83686. The Dean family, or Rosinski family, has hired me actually to list the property for sale for them. I sold the property next door to an affordable housing developer who developed a senior housing project on the site. We have multiple developers interested in the site specifically for affordable housing, most likely senior housing, affordable housing. No idea on number of units or mix. Wouldn't be tiny homes that just wouldn't pencil, and you'd have to do a plat process in order to sell those individually, so that would be out of the question for the groups that I'm speaking with. The property is located in the HUD qualified census tract for low-income housing tax credits, and so it would behoove most developers who would be looking at that site to develop the property for that use. It just makes financially a lot more sense, and right now it can be challenging to develop some smaller projects with current interest rates. So, and one key aspect of this site is its close proximity to the Nampa Rec Center and its senior center. That was one of the things that really drew the attention of the site next door when they developed the senior affordable housing project there. And so we've already had some conversations with some groups that we know that that's what they would bring in there and have expressed interest in making offers, but we have to get through this process before they would be interested in pursuing that. So that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Madam Mayor, I don't have anyone else signed up.
Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to testify that had intended to sign up or that would like to testify on this matter?
Not even Mike?
Okay. Seeing none, this is an opportunity for the applicant to make any further comments. Marla, it's Marla, is that correct? Do you have any further comments you'd like to make? No? Okay. So, council, do you have any questions of the applicant or staff before we close public hearing? Seeing none, I'd stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. This is an opportunity for council discussion on what is the will of the council.
Mayor, I just have a quick question for legal.
Okay.
So if we approve the zoning map amendment, that's all we're doing today, but if in the development agreement, when it comes in for the plat approval, that's where we can modify what is being built here, or should we do it now?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Rodriguez, if you wanted to do a development agreement, now would be the time to do it, as far as whether you're going to exclude a zoo or those kind of things. The plat will come forward subject to the requirements of parking and things that you have in your ordinance, and then the limitations that you may include in a development agreement.
Okay, thank you. So that puts us kind of in a quandary, though.
Not really. If you want to go back to the allowable uses document, permitted uses, I see where you're headed there. Thank you. Let's see.
Sorry, Mayor, I'm trying to find it so that you can see it better in the PDF. Oh, yeah, here we go.
That's much better, thanks. What's a cottage cluster subdivision?
A cottage cluster subdivision is one where they're clustered around an open space. It's generally smaller lots, but they have to be all clustered around an open space and open up to that open space. And it's single-family homes.
Help me with the registered sex offenders living there. I know what a sex offender is, I know what, that is not permitted use, it says.
So this is by state law that it's just a single-family dwelling, it's just a dwelling, and if it's more than 3, there's more restrictions on sex offenders and where they can live. But we can't treat them any different if it's just a sex offender trying to
So
live.
on a development agreement, we can't delete that one from a potential possibility?
That's just your regular single family, so if I look to Todd for that.
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Brunner, those types of facilities need to be treated the same.
So I'm sorry, Todd, why are we even going through this if there's nothing that we can delineate?
So there are certain things, Madam Mayor and Councilmember Brunner, that need to be treated the same as other residential types of development. Transitional housing for those folks are part of that. You need to treat manufactured housing the same as you treat residential.
Okay, so manufactured, we would not be able to not allow manufactured homes in there.
I think without excluding residential as a broad category, you need to treat them the same. So there are, it's a higher density residential designation. You would need to be looking at things that aren't, if you want to exclude something, that aren't consistent with that higher density residential character of the area.
So, and I'm the one that's getting in the weeds on this one now. So if we have a public hearing and this is totally off, not going to happen, I know that. But a facility that was going to have registered, sex offenders in there, I mean, we would have residences within a mile turning out in droves. So that's something that that could be denied if anything out of the ordinary like that happened, though, at that point in time, or not?
Madam Mayor and Councilmember Brunner, up to a point. They need to be treated the same, and I can't remember the number, Rodney, I think, quoted it, but treat the same as any other residential development up to a certain number. If it gets above that number, then it's a different type of facility. But if they meet that state code requirement, then there isn't an additional hearing if they keep it under that number.
Thanks.
Can you go ahead and scroll up, continue to scroll so we can see the other items on here? Can the motion be somewhat, I mean, you don't want to be, I don't want to be limiting, but can the motion be somewhat generic for the intent that the rezone is issued with the intent for multifamily? Then it takes care of about everything else? With the intent, or can it be that broad?
Madam Mayor, I think you could have an approval in your development agreement that is for residential uses, and that allows for a spectrum. That could exclude, I guess, Rodney, are all of those, I'm not looking at the zoning category, but is this all residential permitted use?
This is all for the RML zone.
So some of these things in there that are in an RML are not residential.
Like park, school, storage.
Church. Correct. So I think, Mayor, you could say residential uses within the RML and limit it to that, as long as there's no gray area in anybody's mind, as Rodney included, that some of these things may be residential or may not. But if that is clearly defined in that list, I think that would be something you could put in a development agreement.
Okay, thank you for your consult on that. Okay, with that, council, what is the will of the council?
Mayor, I'm still confused. Are we trying to do residential then here, or because we're getting mixed messages because they were talking about maybe like a senior center there too? So what
Not
is?
a senior center,
So
it was
no.
senior housing.
Affordable senior housing.
Affordable senior housing, which would be the, for residential uses.
Okay.
So it's affordable senior housing. And it's because of its proximity to the senior center, and it's sitting right next to a senior housing unit. And so they were talking potential affordable senior housing or affordable housing of some sort.
Okay.
Okay? Council?
Well, I guess I'll try to make the first motion, see if it goes. I'm going to approve the zoning map amendment from RD, duplex residential and RML, limited multiple family residential and RML, limited multiple family residential zoning district at 508 East Hawaii Avenue for Ideal Custom Home, representing Marla Dean, with the proposed conditions of approval and proposed findings, which would be subject to residential.
I think that's fine with the intent that the units are for residential use.
Yes.
Would that be a fair?
And that would be in a development agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I'll modify that, which included the development agreement.
Okay.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Randy?
Sorry. For a point of clarification, as I look at the difference between RD and an RML, it really comes down to, in townhouses developments, you're limited as far as how many can be adjacent to each other. Where in an RD, where you're not, in an RML, it's permitted. So other than that, it's pretty straightforward that they're both accomplishing the same thing in that, in the comp plan.
Thank you, Randy.
Madam
Yes.
Mayor, I have a question. So I'm confused about the intent for consensus was we don't want any commercial in there at all? Or was it certain commercial uses like a golf course or a country club?
Well, that's not going to happen, you know that, but.
I know that, but I'm trying to figure out, from a developer standpoint, if they buy this property as an investment and they want to build residential in the front and an apartment complex in the back, commercial in the front and an apartment complex in the back, multifamily, they're not going to be allowed to do that. Is that what you're getting at?
In order to make it a safe way for us to look at it, I think we'll stick with that, with the residential. You got a good point, though, but I think at this point I'm not willing to change and see how it goes.
So, and I think Rodney would like to comment real quickly.
I was just going to make sure that you understood that a development agreement will have to be crafted and then come back to you for your approval. And at that time, you can look through the specifics that I come up with, and you can decide whether that fits or not.
Okay.
Okay. Councilman Haverfield?
I was just going to state that in the zoning ordinance, it speaks about the description and purpose of an RML zone, which is to encourage the flexible use of land and promote and maintain stable single-family residential areas. So I think that's what we're looking at here is the potential of this to be developed as a single-family residential area. That's why the RML zone is probably being sought.
Okay. Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, I think we're ready for roll call.
Chingula.
Yes.
Reynolds.
Yes.
Haverfield.
Yes.
Brunner.
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
There you go. You're welcome. Okay, item 8.2 on the agenda is an action item. This is the annexation and zoning to multifamily residential zoning district on 18.59 acres and a potential development agreement for the Northwest Cherry and Canada Roads multifamily development at 0 and 0 Canada Road for Kimberly Horn, representing Syndica LLP. Is our applicant here this evening? And thank you for stating your name and address. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Patrick, 1660 Highway 100, St. Louis Park, Minnesota. I am with Enclave Development and appreciate the opportunity to be here with you this evening to go over what we think is a great project. Our project team is here this evening. We have Kimberly Horn, civil engineer, who will go through a brief presentation, and then also on the line we have our architect, Cass Wilson. little bit of background on Enclave. Enclave's a full-service development company. What we mean by that is that we're not just a developer, full-service real estate company. We're not just a developer, so we don't just come in and get approvals and flip a project or sell it or get through construction and then turn it over to somebody else. We're committed to projects in the long term. We hold all of our projects into perpetuity. That would be the plan here. We think that having that mindset ultimately allows us to approach a project from a big picture, long-term perspective that ends up allowing for win-wins between the community and the developer. Enclave is about 80% multifamily, about 20% industrial and office projects. The vision for this site really is a high amenity, livable, inviting, walkable community, multifamily community, 3 stories of above grade apartments, slab on grade with a separate clubhouse with all the amenities you'd expect in a new modern apartment facility. The project also includes ample green space. We've also programmed additional setbacks and green buffer yards between ourselves and our neighboring property neighbors. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Kimberly Horn to go through a presentation, but I'll be here to answer questions. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Patrick. Mayor, Council, thank you. For the record, Joe Dodson with Kimberly Horn. I'm the project planner. Our address is 1100 West Idaho Street, Suite 210 in Boise, Idaho, 83702. I'll go through a little bit more of the details, but just a quick recap. What we're asking for tonight is annexation and zoning to become part of the city and give us the request for the RMF, residential multifamily zoning. With a development agreement, we do anticipate that to help bind the development with certain conditions. Just a quick overview of our timeline. You know, we had our pre-app in October, neighborhood meeting November, comp plan, as we know, changed in February, or was it formally adopted in February with a lot of legwork before that, obviously. Submitted in March and April for the annexation and then the design review. We received unanimous recommendation of approval from both bodies, both the P&Z and design review. And then we are before you tonight for City Council, and we appreciate you guys having that the day after 4th of July so that we can also have fun and then get business done. So thank you. This is a zoomed out view of this site. It's about 16.5 acres after you take out all the right of way and all that for the roundabout at the intersection of Cherry and Canada. We are northwest corner of Cherry and Canada, nearby College of Western Idaho, and including their expansion area that's planned to the southeast of the site. As noted, there is a roundabout going in directly adjacent to this site. That should help with any existing traffic issues, and by experience, so I'm sure we've all driven through that, especially after any event at the Idaho Center. That intersection is not fun. So the roundabout should absolutely fix that. We are very grateful for that, as every resident here should be as well. This just shows our proximity to the existing single family to the west, as well as the Miller lateral that bisects the site that we are keeping in its current location, not rerouting it, not piping it, to leave it as a sort of open amenity for the site. Future land use does designate this site as high-density residential, which is 8 units to the acre or more, and that is what we're proposing, consistent with the comp plan. So we find that we are consistent with the future land use. Again, the property is about 16.5 acres. Total units is 299, so that's about 18 units to the acre. The main component that we want to focus on here is the 44% of the units are studio or 1-bedroom, and that, as Enclave can delineate through most of the projects that they've looked at in the valley, which has been way more than a few. That's well above the 30% average for most places who aren't even doing studio apartments. So the point of that and the Enclave's vision for this site is to provide more of those workforce housing units for people who are single occupants and don't have a bunch of stuff to stuff in a house, but want to live near the Amazon, near the warehouses and all the other employment that is to the south of this site, as well as those students who are going to CWI, which seems to immensely grow every year, which is amazing for those technical facilities. For parking, which is always a concern, especially with multifamily, we understand that. We are proposing 620 spaces when 607 are required. That does include tuck under single car garages for the units that are in that building. So they're not directly assigned to the unit directly adjacent or directly behind. Anybody could get one of those parking spaces that are enclosed in the garage. For the open space, we were required to provide 5% per code. We are proposing 14%. We have proposed 3,000 feet of linear pathways, which does include the required sidewalks along Canada and Cherry, but also we have included a 5-foot pathway along the Miller Lateral that we're keeping, again, as a open space amenity. As you can see in the center areas between both pockets, because again, Miller Lateral bisects the site, kind of creates two sort of open space areas, which is great for easy and equitable access across the site. So you have a gazebo and other landscaping in the south side, and then in the north you have the clubhouse with the pool and all the extra amenities that you can imagine. Do want to note that the amenities are not 100% solidified, but the anticipated uses would be, shade structures, fitness room, grill stations, probable some type of sports courts or outdoor games, those types of things. And also we want to highlight the buffer to the west. So per code, 50 feet is a required buffer in order to, limits the residential height of the units. We have placed the buildings 210 feet from the existing residence for the building that is noted as Building 5, which is the longest facing those single family. Technically, we could have built that at 16 feet from the property line just because of building setbacks, but Enclave has worked very diligently with the neighbors to say and propose a 100-foot green buffer and place the building on the opposite side of the drive aisles in order to help preserve what is the existing lifestyle of those single-family residents. These are our approved elevations. We made slight changes after the DR hearing, sent those to staff. Staff said, yes, they still comply with everything that we want, and these are now part of the approval document. So I just want to highlight that. I did pass around the physical representation of what that is, and we do hope you guys take a look at that. There's just renderings of different parts of the site. On the left, you have what would be the clubhouse facing, I believe that's looking at it from from Canada. And then just more renderings of what the site would look like from some of the open space areas. At the P&Z hearing, just briefly, I'm sure we'll hear about this again, and that's perfectly fine. Love the hearing process for this, but heard about existing irrigation and water uses. We are going to preserve those existing irrigation and water rights as per state code. There was discussion about fencing. We are now showing on the recently revised landscape plans of fencing along the north boundary, consistent with the resident to the north who requested that. And then traffic, again, we believe that we are, through the TIS, going to comply and exceed the traffic generation that's going to be from this development. One with the roundabout, thankful of that through the CIP, but also the required turn lanes on Cherry and Canada that we are going to construct as part of this project. And lastly, schools. Very grateful that Valley View got their bond passed for everybody, not just our project, but across the school district. It's incredible. So through that, and again, our efforts to kind of market and guide this project as for workforce housing and not necessarily families, we hope that you guys see that the schools are not going to be an issue with this site. And lastly, with the staff report, we did submit the traffic impact study. It was approved by the city engineer with specific conditions of approval. We are compliant with all those and will adhere to those. The Pergam Gulch Drain Pathway, there was discussion at P&Z at the time of whether that was going to be on our property, not on our property, et cetera. We have added that to the plan to show that within the Pergam Drain easement and talked with Pioneer Irrigation and have had that approved through them. We are also originally had a 20-foot landscape buffer, which is just a miscue on our part. We now have a 25-foot buffer to Cherry and Canada, and we will comply with all those required frontage improvements that are not part of the roundabout plans. And then lastly, there was discussion about within the rental agreements to have the garages be only for parking and not for storage, and the applicant will comply with that as well. So again, to wrap this all up, we just request for your approval for annexation and zoning to the RMF zoning district with the development agreement. And we will stand for any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Council, do you have any questions? Yes, Councilman Haverfield.
Just a couple of quick questions for you.
Yes, sir.
It appears that the canal will be retained open. Is that correct?
The Pergam or the Miller lateral?
The lateral that goes through there, it's indicated as canal, so.
Okay, yeah, the central one will remain open, yes, sir.
Okay. So it basically breaks the project into two sections.
Mm-hmm.
The lower section that is on Cherry Lane at Canada with the roundabout going in, has that access, will that access be restricted? Has it been approved yet through the traffic impact study?
Access closest to the roundabout that you can see on the plans is, it was a previously negotiated access, right in, right out, so a restricted access.
It's restricted?
With the existing owners, yes.
Okay.
I don't think this has a pointer. Does that have a pointer? It does. No, okay.
With
but
the
that would be
owners or with
restricted.
ITD?
With Nampa, with City of Nampa.
So we have control of that? Okay, so I'll get further clarification from Daniel then.
Sure.
So that was my main question, it was just that access appeared to be pretty close to that roundabout, so I was a little concerned about it.
Yeah, absolutely, and we understand that as well. Now that I see it on the landscape plans, it does say full movement access. That is inaccurate. It is a right in, right out only access, and it's already part of the approved construction documents for the roundabout going in right now.
Will the bridge be built over the canal as a part of the first phase?
Yes, this will be one phase project.
Okay, everything at once?
Yes,
All right, thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for our applicant? Thank you. As you, go ahead.
Just
I'm
really
sorry.
quickly, not a question, but thank you for bringing the material samples.
Yeah.
I've asked for that before, and you're the first person that has brought those, so that's very helpful. Thank you.
That's good. Thanks to the architects for putting that together and sending it to me.
Thanks.
Thank you. Todd?
Madam Mayor, building on Council Member Jangala's comment, we have those samples, and I asked staff to take a picture so that's included in the record, and then anyone in the public gets at the back table if they'd like to go look at it in relation to their comments.
Thank you very much. So as you heard from legal, they're in the back if anyone would like to look at them. Thank you. So as you know, in the process, we'll have you back after public testimony.
Sounds good.
To provide closing comments. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Parker?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Parker Bodley, Senior Planner. The surrounding zoning here, the county to the north is being used as ag land currently. Arbor Farms Nursery to the south, zone GB2, Moore County to the east, and then Lionsdale Park to the west. After I go through my presentation, I'll turn it over to Daniel, and he can go over services and traffic, which will be a hot topic, I'm sure. The annexation, in regards to annexation, it needs to be contiguous, it needs to be consistent with the comp plan, future land use map, as well as have consent from the owners, and staff finds all those to be met. Regarding the zoning, again, the requested zone meets the comprehensive plan. Whether it provides a use or set of uses being compatible, that's up for your interpretation, as well as the land use designation, the zoning, and then whether it creates a spot zone. Staff finds that the proposed zoning would not create a spot zone. And then the last conclusion, whether it's in the interest of the public and reasonably necessary. Again, that's up for your decision. It gives you significant liberty in that case there. We've looked over the site plan already, and we can refer back to this as the applicant has shown you already. An overlay of the current area. This did go through design review already, and these are the approved elevations. Further applicable regulations here. The RMH zone, it's intended for higher density housing. The height restriction, they can't exceed 65 feet without your approval. These structures are 30 feet to the top plate or the top of the wall, not including the roof. The RML zone, the setbacks, as the applicant said, within 50 feet, they need to adhere to the adjacent zoning district heights. These structures are all beyond that 50 feet, so there isn't a concern for height restriction. They adjusted their site plan to follow the 25-foot landscape buffer, and we've covered the 5% in open space, which they have exceeded, as well as the parking, which they've shown to meet that requirement as well. And that will be reviewed with the building permit once that comes in, should this be approved. The correspondence, the irrigation district has comments about their easement being protected, and they will need to work with the irrigation district on those, the crossings and if the pathways are within those easements or not. But the GIS comment about providing street names, I believe that's been addressed already, but again, that'll be addressed with the building to permit. The police department had a comment of additional officers. The fire department, this is 2.5 miles from Fire Station 3. They have 7-minute response time. And again, I'll refer to Daniel for engineering comments. I'm sure you're all familiar with the area. There's a range of apartments, fourplexes, single-family homes here. CWI's a quarter mile away here. The comp plan it's high-density residential in this area, which is 8 and over, 8+ dwelling units an acre. This is 18.1. The traffic impact study was completed, and Daniel can address that. Again, design review was completed and approved. Staff is recommending a development agreement to hold this concept plan in. The last one about infill, this is infill, and it's encouraged to develop in areas that have services available and make efficient use of those. Potential findings, those are in the staff report. Should you approve, the conditions are in the staff report as well, addressing all those things. A potential motion, and we can get into questions.
Thank you, Parker. Council, yes, Councilman Haverfield.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
As far as I asked the question on a prior application, as far as the development being residential or commercial, this would be considered a commercial development, would it not?
Commercial, correct.
And depending on the number of units that are studio versus 2 or 3 bedroom units, the parking requirements would be based upon that, correct?
That would be dictated by the building code. As far as ADA spaces?
No, I'm talking about just per unit.
Oh, the parking calculation is based on the number of bedrooms in each unit.
Right.
Correct.
And I thought I heard the applicant say something about studio apartments versus 2 and whatever. So I was just looking at the parking count. I just want to make sure that they're aware of how they need to develop the parking count. So as long as they're working down the path of number of parking spaces per unit based upon the number of bedrooms, the guest parking that's required along with the ADA. And then it appears that they've shaded some of the parking spaces, so they're meeting half the requirement as far as for shaded parking spaces. So that's just a note for the applicant to check into. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for Parker? Okay, I don't see any right now. We'll have you back, Parker, if we need to. Thank you. Thank you, Daniel.
Mayor, Council, a traffic study has been completed on this project. Of the intersections required to be studied. The only one that was bad was the intersection of Cherry and Idaho Center, which we're currently putting in a roundabout there now. That does bring the level of service there up to a level of service B, which is well above our minimum requirements. And so based on that, the only improvements that are required from this development are a right-hand turn lane westbound on Cherry. So on their access on Cherry, it would have a right-hand turn lane. Their access on Canada will be required, the northern access will be required to have a left-hand turn lane. The access close to the roundabout there is a right-in, right-out. That was part of our negotiations when we purchased the property to construct the right-of-way or the roundabout. And so with that being a right-in, right-out access, it was allowable and acceptable for that location. And we don't have any concerns with that being a right-in, right-out approach there.
So Daniel, as far as signalization, any hawk signals planned at that location? Because that could generate some issues.
So there would not be any hawk signals there. This will have the RFBs for the pedestrian ramps, but they will be, the signage will be there, and that will be fully visible from those approaches.
All four streets?
So the locations where the RFBs will sit, you would obviously have the first one there coming out. They would be able to see that. If they continue around, take a right onto Cherry, that RFB for that signal would be, or for that crosswalk will be visible. And so that's not.
So a person either on a bike or walking would be able to go cross over Canada on either side of the roundabout?
Correct.
And be able to cross over Cherry Lane on either side of the roundabout?
Correct. They would need to cross Canada, come down to the other approach, cross Cherry, and around that way.
That was my question, if
yes.
the rapid flashing beacons are going to be at all
Yes.
crossovers?
Yep, that is the standard at all roundabouts at this point with the city.
Right in, right out on that intersection, or that point of exit, okay.
That would be a concern if there were a left there coming right out of the intersection, but with it being a right in, right out. And anyone coming, wanting to head north out of that can take a right, go around the circle and head north, so it's really not
Will the applicant be required to put in a raised median there?
That's part of the project. The roundabout project is putting in those medians.
Okay, thank you.
Nope, unless there are any other questions.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, Daniel, thank you. This is the time that we would go into public testimony, and we will, but just real quickly, is there anyone here that was here for item 8.4, which is annexation and zoning for planned unit development for Resting Rock subdivision? You guys, okay, I am so sorry, but that is going to be continued. We are not going to hear that tonight. So there will be, we'll be looking for a motion later to continue that to a date specific of the next meeting, which is July 17th. So I apologize, I didn't share that. I just got to thinking about it, and I thought, so you do not have to wait. And I am so sorry. I meant to do that at the beginning, and you've sat there for so long. So my apologies. Well, at least you don't have to hear this one and the next one, waiting for yours. So thank you for that smile, and I am so sorry. Okay, thank you guys for your interest in being here. Thank you so much.
See you next week.
Yes, in 2 weeks. Thank you. So we are ready to move into public testimony on this action item 8.2. And so who do we have signed up?
Madam Mayor, we have 3 people that did advance sign up, and our first speaker is Douglas Thurgood, and then on deck is Lincoln Haygood. I'm sorry, I'm just and Mike Pena.
Douglas's last name again?
Douglas Thurgood.
Thurgood. Thank you. Go ahead and give us your name and address again, and thank you for being here.
My name's Doug Thurgood. I live at 17245 Canada Road. We also own the 2 parcels north of this project. And this particular application is part of the family farm, and I have lived on this property for 40 years and have farmed this ground for 40 years. I am in support of this project. It's come to a time where we're going to have to move on. We've been grown around by the city, and so time has come to move on. The only thing that I'm requesting of the city council, which has already been addressed, is we're requesting a fence that goes down the north boundary to prevent some security between the farm and the project both ways. We're also looking to secure the irrigation well on Canada Road so that can't be accessed just by anyone walking by to cause damage on the well. We are in the very near future going to be looking to apply a very similar project to this before you. And so we want to make sure that we have access to the sewer through this project. And we also want to make sure that the egresses that we're going to be putting in will be compatible with the egresses that are going to be going into this project, and also be compatible for fire and whatever other requirements might be needed as we go forward. But we would request that they look at that so that as we do a project very similar to this, that we have everything in place that we need going forward. Other than that, I can answer any questions you might have regarding the history of the ground, the area. Our family's been in the area for a long, long time, all around here, and so it's kind of a changing of an era, but I guess it is what it is, and I guess the cowboy's riding away. That's all I got. Any questions from you?
No, other than Douglas, I know what that feels like, and that's so different, isn't it?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's a changing of an era.
It
Okay.
is. Well, thank you for being here. And then for staff, have we addressed all of the comments? I wrote them all down, but have you already addressed them? Have you had these conversations with staff?
We have had conversation with staff. We've talked to Caleb on a number of occasions, and we've also had conversation with Kimley Horn as well, and also Enclave. And so we have had a number of conversations in the past. This isn't new news to them, but I just wanted to make the council aware that we're going to have a project very similar to this in the very near future coming forward. And so we want it to be compatible both ways, and we don't want to run into any hiccups. That's my main concern.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, our next speaker is Lincoln.
All good?
I'm not going to say it.
Lincoln Haygood.
Was that all good, or?
You just say it enough, it'll get in there.
Lincoln Haygood, 4815 South Front Street, Nampa, Idaho 83686. I'm the real estate agent representing the buyers. Just a couple key components, because I know that there have been a number of multifamily projects that have been presented to council over the last couple of years. So just a couple items. One, this particular site is ripe for multifamily development. Its proximity to CWI is crucial for the continued success of CWI. We joke around in our office that in the 1960s, Boise Junior College probably wished they would have bought more land when they became Boise State University instead of paying $1 million for a single family home across the street, when now they want to build more student housing there. So, you know, we already know that CWI is the fastest growing community college in the history of the U.S. We already know that CWI has multiple significant expansions, which somebody might speak to shortly. And we already know that the highest and best use for land surrounding CWI is for options that are going to cater that community. So a couple other key factors, this project being so close to the interstate and a lot of major employers that will come into our community in the next few years is another reason we like this site for this project. And lastly, for those who haven't looked up this particular applicant, they are a developer of a lot of very, very successful multifamily projects. And with today's high interest rates, I think you'll probably start seeing some of the multifamily projects that were planned may not happen. But this particular developer has a really strong performance track record, and we see great things for this particular site. Lastly, we look at some of the data of where the current home pricing is for single-family homes. And maybe this isn't new data for some of you, but fewer than 25% of our citizens in the city of Nampa make a wage that qualifies them to go purchase the median home within our city. And so whether we like it or not, the wave of the future is a lot more multifamily, maybe some more townhome projects as well, but this will help serve our growing industry around this site, whether it's CWI or the large industrial warehouses that are being constructed and employers near here. So thank you.
Mayor, if I may, Lincoln, and
Yes.
whenever you or Mike are here, I consistently kind of ask, where are we at in the vacancy rate on multifamily?
Yeah, I might let Mike speak to that one.
When you come up, Mike?
Yeah, I know that it's changing quickly, but I don't have it's kind of a quarterly thing, and unfortunately, I don't have the numbers right now.
Very good, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Pena is our next speaker.
You're in trouble.
Good evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Councilman Bruner, latest data I have in a Q1, it's the latest data of multifamily vacancy is 5.35% and single-family vacancy is 2.45%.
5.3?
5.35, yes, sir.
And 7 is what, when prices usually start being a little more competitive?
Historically, yes. We did have a bunch of product come online recently. Anyway, I'm sorry. Mike Pena, I'm with Colliers. I've been hired to represent the Bastion Family Trust that owns the land. Address is 5700 East Franklin Road, Nampa, Idaho. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I think this project, in my opinion, kind of hits on all cylinders for where multifamily should be. You know, we're an ag community. We've had discussions about you can't be pro-ag and against high-density infill. So, you know, we got to preserve some of our ag land, and high density is a way to do this. This project, in my opinion, is what we're looking for the city of Nampa to do smart multifamily development. It's access to I-84, access to very close to St. Alphonsus Hospital. It is near public transportation for folks who need to be on the bus route. We have key employers around with Amazon, Autoval, Lactalis, Matern, and Walmart. And then I'll elaborate a little bit more on CWI. So as most of us know, CWI is starting construction this summer on a new health and science building. It's 110,000 square feet. We also got approval for a new student services building and a horticulture center, which will also be built adjacent to this land. We're currently serving over 30,000 students, and at this campus is over 100 acres. So over time, we're going to continue to see CWI built out, and that demand for student housing and affordable housing for folks nearby is going to continue to grow with that. Historically, community colleges service around 6% of the MSA. So think about that, right? So we're just under 1 million people in the Treasure Valley. We could be serving up to 60,000 students at CWI at some point. We just don't have the buildings right now, so the demand's there, and we're going to grow into it. I appreciate the consideration, and if there's any questions, I'd be happy to help. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Council, do you have any questions? I don't think so. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Appreciate it. Are there any others?
Madam Mayor, there is not.
Okay, is there anyone here that had intended to sign up and testify on this issue, this public hearing? Seeing none, this is an opportunity for our applicant to come back and answer any questions and provide any closing comments, and for council to be prepared for any questions.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and council again, thanks for having us, and thank you to those who testified in support or even in the past that have testified against our project. I'm a former public planner myself, so I do appreciate this public process. This is how you get good projects and build a good community. So at this point, just wanted to, the only thing I'll clarify is that we did do the fence that Mr. Thurgood mentioned. We also have, I saw the recent updated preliminary utility plans. We have stubbed water and sewer, or plan to stub water and sewer to the north boundary for their future use as well. So, and then consistent with Councilman Haverfield's questions regarding the parking, we have confirmed that we do comply based on our current unit count and bedroom count. The required parking, both ADA and regular, as well as covered. So I assure you we do comply.
Just want to make you aware of what Natalie pushes for.
Fair enough.
Fortunately, it's codified in our code, so it's kind of required.
There too.
Yeah, there too.
But not everyone has 4 cars like she does. So.
Yeah.
I definitely don't.
With that, though, we will stand for any last questions you guys have.
Mayor,
Thank you, Ed.
go ahead. You start.
Councilman Rodriguez
You
and then
start.
Councilman Brunner.
So it's when Mr. Thorgood, when Douglas Thorgood gave testimony, he made some stipulations. And I wrote them down, but I want to make sure that you have already discussed that with him and fully agreeing to agree with that, right, I guess.
Councilman Rodriguez, yes, sir, we have. We have talked about the fence, we've talked about the water and sewer, and we've talked about the existing well that's along Canada that we're going to maintain and make sure it's protected.
Okay, and also the boundary with the fence,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
and what else was, yeah,
The
okay.
egress compatibility.
Yes, egress
Is the only other
compatibility.
one that we haven't clarified.
Yeah.
That's fair, and that's something that, I mean, per our plan, our point of ingress and egress is going to eventually be very solidified as soon as we put in the turn lane. And then it'll just be a matter of working with the city of Nampa, Caleb, and the roadway to make sure that there's enough offset, because that's what the main component is just making sure there's that minimum offset along that arterial roadway.
Okay.
We'll probably ask Daniel before we're done, just to talk about that real quickly. So are there any other questions for the applicant?
Madam Mayor, I have
Yes.
one.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Darrell. I
No.
apologize, I goofed.
You want to
Excuse
go
me.
first, Darrell?
No, you're on.
I'm so sorry.
Somewhere in this packet, I read for this project that there was concern about the invert on the sewer, making it to the Purdom drain. Maybe Daniel could speak to that.
I'm, Councilman Reynolds, I'm not aware of that. My understanding is that there's plenty invert and capacity for the water and sewer. I guess invert doesn't matter
Yeah, I
for
was
water.
wondering if it was going to have a lift station or a force main or something.
That's right. We will have to do a lift station. Fair. That's fair. And there's multiple options, as we've discussed with Caleb, and we will eventually solidify what that's going to be. I think we're leaning towards one way right now, but we will have to coordinate with that, Caleb, and that is absolutely, those discussions have occurred and are occurring.
Thank you.
Councilman Brunner.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Now, we're using the term workforce housing a lot, so I'm interested in your projected price points on especially a CWI student that maybe wants a studio and be able to just walk or bike to campus. And so I realize things are changing daily, but interested in what your hope is or for a consumer.
Mayor, if I may, Councilmember. Yeah, glad to respond to that. So this apartment multifamily development is market rate housing, so it's not restricted income or restricted to anybody specifically, nor are the rents. So there'll be market rents. With that being said, to the points that were previously made, we do have a handful of studios in this project. I think it's just shy of 10%. Which is a product that is starting to be introduced into this marketplace, but isn't in every project. Those rents typically run, and if anybody does need an official answer, I can follow up with an official answer. I'm working off the top of my head here, but I believe somewhere in that $1,100, $1,200 range off the top of my head for a studio. And then one bedrooms, again, would be a higher percentage compared to a lot of the competition in the nearby marketplace. Those in general will run $1,400 to $1,500, somewhere around in that range for a monthly rent. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, and so your 3-bedroom, what's your top range?
3 bedrooms will be just around $2,000, maybe just over $2,000. And the thought process there, actually, we have a slightly higher percentage of 3 beds compared to 2s, again, compared to competing projects. Part of that reason, the reason for that is so people can split a 3-bedroom and make it more affordable.
And Mayor, if I may, one other question regarding the schools. I realize the bond has passed. That's not going to happen overnight as far as, and I don't know what your timeline, you say this is a one-phase project. So do you have a timeline currently when you hope to have this project completed?
We would intend to start construction at the end of this year, at the turn of the year. And then it'll be for a full build, it'll be almost a 2-year construction process from start.
And so have you, I know in the past, before this bond was passed, the Valley View School District was they could not require, but asking as far as financial benefit on housing developments and so on. Are you working with them at all regarding that?
Councilmember, excuse me. We have had a meeting with the school district. I guess I don't want to speak on their behalf. We did talk through a potential development fee. I don't know where that went. I believe that they make a recommendation to the city council. Frankly, their bigger concern was the levy. They said they, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they were way more concerned about getting the levy than a development fee from us. But, we're on standby for whatever formal
So
recommendation.
what I'm hearing a little bit is some willingness to at least to work with them regarding that.
Yeah, we've had a conversation and we're open to a discussion. Yep.
Thanks.
Are there any other questions?
Mayor, really quickly, I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you for bringing something forward that's so well designed. And it's not just this box, like cookie cutter, high density stuff that sometimes we see that comes before us. This is so thought out, and all the different elements that you guys have put on these buildings, it's just so aesthetically pleasing, and it's just very thought out. So I just want to thank you guys for putting forth the extra effort to make this a nice community space.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
And she'll come out and paint your parking lines when you're ready.
Yes, I will.
That's fine.
And I live very close to this. My house is on your map, so thank you for making this aesthetically pleasing.
You're very welcome. And we appreciate the positive comments. We put a lot of work into this, obviously, from the design team, engineering, even me, the planner, and obviously the architects. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just curious. So Lincoln gave you, of course, kudos, which deserving, I'm sure. So this type of project, what's the closest that would be somewhat similar to this type of project that you're wanting to do here? Location-wise, geographically.
That we've completed?
Yeah.
Tri-Cities in
Tri-Cities.
Yep, yep.
And you're pretty much full as far as occupancy?
In Washington, yes, yes, yep.
I know Tri-Cities is growing like crazy also, so, okay.
Are there any other questions? So did we have a question for Daniel, or did we get all of those questions? So actually, we need to go to Daniel, then we're going to have you back because you get the last word, so.
No problem.
Thank you, Daniel.
Mayor Kling, I have a question for Chief Carpenter, too.
Okay. And it's so good to see Chief Carpenter here. Hi.
So Mayor, the question was regarding the access and the spacings there. Looking at where their proposed spacing is and the subdivision to the north of Mr. Thurgood's property, we have about 950 feet between those two accesses. So we have adequate space to allow an access on Thurgood's property. Thurgood's property also has a public street in the Canyon Creek subdivision that stubs into that they would be able to tie into for a second emergency access if they need to. So from that perspective, I don't see a significant need for a cross-access with this project. It appears there's adequate access to make that all work there.
Okay. So have you had, well, it's actually Caleb that's had
So
discussions.
Caleb and I have been involved in the discussions on the sewer there. This property is located in the Purdom drainage area, though right on the edge between it and the Birch drainage area. The two subdivisions that surround it are served by lift stations, private lift stations that pump back to the Birch. So there's some technical issues of how do we then serve this property. As part of our right-of-way negotiations with the previous property owner, we agreed that we would allow them to pump to the Birch, whether that's through one of the private lift stations or a separate. Those are the technical details that we will be working out. Long-term, though, we are working on extending the Purdom out that would then abandon those lift stations, and they could just gravity that direction when that happens. But in the interim, there's that work out of physically how are we going to take care of the sewer. Those negotiations and things are ongoing and would be dealt with at a staff level in the approval processes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions for Daniel? Okay, and then Councilman Haverfield, you had a question for Chief Carpenter.
I do. Thanks for coming tonight.
Good evening.
Mayor and council, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm very well.
Say, I was noticing in the packet that fire station number 3 would be the dispatch fire station for this location.
That's correct.
Does fire station number 3 have the ladder trucks to reach above a 30-foot level?
It does not. So if there was some type of fire emergency there, we would be getting Station 3 and then Station 5, which is the decision you made, 4 years ago, is where we do have the aerial apparatus out of Station 5 on Happy Valley.
Okay, so what's the dispatch time from fire station number 5?
I would have to get on Google and get the drive time, but that location specifically is pretty close to the same drive time from Station 3. It would all depend on time of day at that point, because we're dealing with that I-84 on-ramp coming from Happy Valley. Distance-wise, we're within probably a quarter mile of those two stations.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that the applicant was aware that a fire access lane has to be provided within 30 feet and that a ladder truck would have to be able to be utilized to fight fire on those.
So I did, so Chief Johnson and his team do all the plan reviews. He did send me with just one quick note here. In the original submission, we did note that we had some concerns about a little bit of access due to a turnaround. Working with the planning team from both the developer and the city, that was fully resolved very quickly, and a new plan was submitted taking away any concern from the fire department due to access. This isn't a special place that we're going to start dealing with as a community in general, because Meridian Fire's new fire station is only a mile further than ours. So this is really where we do need to start collaborating, because our engine and one of our trucks would be first on scene, but then Meridian would actually be the next closest unit. This area was designated for a future station near CWI, but as you can see, these properties are getting infilled very, very quickly. So there's going to have to be collaboration with our neighboring departments as we look into the future of what our coverage of North Nampa is going to be, whether that's with Caldwell, Middleton, Star, and Meridian as we start touching boundaries.
Chief, these buildings will be self-suppressing because of their size. And the hotels that are around this location as well. That's why I was wondering why a ladder truck isn't more readily available, but it sounds like it's the same distance.
You guys actually, the council at the time when we moved from the fire, we had a fire engine company out of Station 5, and with your guidance under Chief Roberts, we made the decision, we moved to an aerial apparatus, probably 4 years ago. And that was pre-Amazon, and that was your thought then, is we needed to have that aerial apparatus out there then.
So where's the aerial? Is it out of Station 3 or 5?
Station 5, on so right there at Victory and Happy Valley.
Okay, so is the aerial apparatus on the ladder truck then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
sounds like we need to annex that Meridian Station, Chief. And nice job on the Garrity fire today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so this is the opportunity for the applicant now to come forward and have some closing comments.
Thank
If
you,
you'd like
Mayor.
to respond to any of those.
I think they all speak for themselves, and as stated, we do comply with all the building and fire codes as of current today. And again, we just thank you for your time and appreciate presenting a great project for Nampa.
Thank you. Okay, council, before we close public hearing, any last questions? See none? Okay, thank you very much. I'd stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what is the will of the council?
Well, Mayor, some time ago, Mike Pena stood before us. I haven't forgot that. He said that for multi-use homes or multi-family residential, there's some requirements that would fit in different areas. These would not fit Southwest Nampa, South Nampa, East Nampa, but it does fit within the north area like this one does. He says hospital, schools, college, businesses, groceries, amenities for families, and affordable housing, which I don't think this is affordable housing, but it's workforce housing, I understand that. And the other thing was proximity to work. So Mike, I didn't forget that. So usually I'm against these projects, but this one is very good, and I commend you for picking a great spot for an area of our city. So I definitely like this program.
You gonna make a motion?
Well, I could.
We have
Unless-
deliberation first.
Unless anybody else wants to say anything.
Further discussion? Okay, Councilman
Before a
Haverfield?
motion's made.
Okay.
I don't know, Dale, do you want to say something first? Or?
I would like to say something real quickly, and that is that there was some comments that were provided by a citizen, and I just want, in case the citizen is listening, it's Natalie Pritchard. I just want to comment that those comments were provided to City Council. They are in the back, and they are here. And just so that it's noted that we have had the opportunity to view those comments. So that's it. Councilman Haverfield?
Mayor, as I looked over the plan, I've pointed out a few things to the applicant already so that they're aware. Parking is an issue. Obviously, there's a different count required now than what was maybe in earlier ordinances. So it's important that they look at that. The shade structures appear to be present since half of the parking requirement is to be shaded. My only critique at this point, a concern, is buildings 7, 8, and 9 being 3-story, abutting right onto Cherry Lane. I think that they would be more appropriate as a 2-story building as opposed to a 3-story. It would cut back some of the parking requirements, obviously, but I have a little concern about the number that they have compared to what I was coming up with as far as in just tabulated form. But I think the 3-story units on the backside, the separation to the northern boundary is a good separation. It's just the separation to Cherry Lane being 3 stories that I think that those should be 2. That's just a personal thought.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion?
Mayor, are we concerned with that right now? We're only looking for annexation and zoning. Is that?
Well, they have provided their concept plan that is clearly included here.
Okay, so you're, Councilman Haverfield, you're talking about 3-story on which side?
If you look at the lower 3 buildings up above you there, buildings 7, 8, and 9, those 3. It's just the proximity to a major thoroughfare. I just don't like the 3-story aspect on those. 2 would be fine to me, but that's just me.
And that's Cherry? Or is that Canada? Okay. Okay.
The difficulty, I would say, is that, I don't know, this has already been through plan review, is that correct? Yeah. It's very, the one thing I guess I don't even know how to say this, but I caution council, I think it's very difficult when it's already been through plan review and they're here, we're approving it, because their financial model, this is not just for this one, but for, in general, sometimes the financial model does not work. And so for us to come in and redesign, that's a little difficult, but I guess we have every right to because it's an annexation.
Well, Mayor, I'll allow Councilman Bruner to pull a number out of the air because he does.
Yeah.
Well, there's one little difference there was in that and we're not going to get into that too much here, but there was pretty much a verbal statement that they were going to reduce the volume, and that was what I was not happy with.
Which is a different subject and a different, so we won't go there.
Whole different ballgame.
Whole different thing. And so, which is fine, because we have the opportunity on an annexation to actually provide whatever we choose to provide. I just don't know what it does to the process right now. Parker?
Mayor, this has gone through design review, so they just look at the exterior facades of the building. We do a site analysis with the building permits. We look at the setbacks, the building heights, all of that detail. It's outside of the landscape buffer on Cherry, which is the setback requirement, essentially, so it meets that requirement. Whether you want those to be 2-story or 3-story, that's would be your decision tonight.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, further discussion?
Mayor, I agree with President Haverfield on that. I don't know if there's a way we can open it back up to ask them if they would be willing to make that modification.
It would have been good to have addressed this while the public
Yeah.
hearing was open, because we would have to reopen the public hearing. So if that's going to come forward as a requirement, then we should be addressing it and having that discussion in open discussion.
Mayor, I'm not sure that I understand or totally agree with what you just stated, because we've gone and made these type of decisions on past projects quite a lot. The idea that they're asking for our approval on a concept plan is basically that. And my idea was stated. I just don't think that a three-story along the frontage there would be appreciated, especially as stated by one neighbor, possibly my more that haven't stated anything. It would cut back the count a little bit, or they could reconfigure. The buildings along the northern boundary that have the ends of the buildings facing Canada, you're just talking about a small footprint there, or a small elevation that's really being seen. The balance of the building goes away from you in perspective. The fact that these are kind of like almost rail cars in alignment along Cherry Lane, I wouldn't design it that way myself. I would either put the drive lane on the outer portion abutting so that the parking is a further separation from Canada, but that's not what they chose to do here. So that's my feelings. I don't have to vote for this.
Can I ask
I like the project, I do, but that's my only critique.
Okay, may I ask a quick question? If they made the adjustment of the parking and put it on the outside, would you still prefer a two-story? Just so that we are giving some ideas to them?
Right, no, I think Northwest Apartments is an example of where it was developed with the buildings that are three-story set back, an additional, with a landscape buffer, an additional 60 to 70 feet, so you're almost 100 feet off of the frontage instead of just the 25.
Okay, thank you.
Plus, the shade structures then provide a proportional step-up type of appearance along with the landscaping.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Mayor, on those two in the middle and then the one that's just south of that, are those ones all two-story?
Are you talking south of the irrigation canal
see
or
the-
north of the canal?
These three right here. Are these all two-story or three-story?
Okay.
These are all three?
The interior ones are all three-story, is that correct? They're all three-story, okay.
They are.
Every building is three-story.
Everyone is, okay.
Except for which ones?
The clubhouse.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thank you. Any further?
So that poses a problem with that email, with that discussion. So let me, well, I already made it. No, I didn't, did I? Okay. Okay. Do you want to make the motion, or you want me to? Doesn't matter.
He's asking if you would like to make a
Me?
motion. Mhm.
Well, that's why I wanted the deliberation before motion was made. And again, that's what the counter, whatever back and forth is meant to be at the council level. As a fallback, if you didn't agree that buildings 7, 8, and 9 all needed to be maybe reduced in height, I would be fine with 8 and 9, since they're directly on Cherry Lane as maybe a compromise to that. But, I'm surprised that anyway, I won't get into it, but a development of this size and nature, especially with the complexity of the roundabout being there and all the other things that the traffic impact study should have covered, I think we've covered just about everything. It's just the height of those buildings abutting right on Cherry Lane. Once they're there, they're there. Any large structures seem to me that you'd want to have separation. Otherwise, they just, people's backyards or patios are right on the sidewalk with people shooting by at 45 miles an hour. So my thoughts are, you want me to make a motion? Is that what you're saying?
Can I ask a quick question of staff? I have a question. So if I remember correctly, the allowable height in this zone is what?
They can go as high as city council would permit. Within 50 feet of the residential zone, they are restricted to the residential height, which is 30 feet, I believe, but they are outside of that 50 feet, so there really isn't a restriction, whatever
For
you would
somewhere I was
permit.
thinking that there was a height restriction of 60 or 60-something, but there's,
They can go over 65 feet with your approval.
with approval. And these are at 30 currently?
Correct, to the top of the wall, so not including the roof. It's a pitched roof.
Okay. Okay.
So Parker, from a standpoint of ladder access, do you count the midpoint of the roof, the top of the roof at the peak, or the plate line at the wall?
Councilman, you're referring to the ladder access for the
Right.
fire department?
Fire department.
That would probably be a question for the fire department.
Last time I asked that question, I didn't get an answer,
The
so.
ladder access, we can reach anything up to, with the ladder that's in place, we can reach up to 100 feet.
So,
So
but if
let's
the building
real quickly-
reaches, I mean, it exceeds 30 feet by.
Kirk, could you come forward and say that answer on a mic? Thank you. Go ahead and repeat your answer. Thank you.
The point I was making is in prior applications, we've talked about 30 feet being the limit. Anything above 30 feet has to have ladder access. So that's where the fire lane comes in, that you have within 30 feet of the building facade. So my question is, if it's exceeding 30 feet, we're talking about ladder access no matter what.
With the accesses we have here, we would be able to access all these roofs up to, with that setback, 60-foot wall height, we could still get onto the roof
As long as you're within 30 feet of.
of the building.
Okay. So that's pretty much as I
But these are currently projected at 30 is the whole wall height.
Right.
Is that correct?
Correct, yep.
Again, I mean, projections and those type of things. Some municipalities use the midline of the roof since it's pitched, or the ridge itself. So it just comes down to what the application that our fire department is asking for. That's why I'm asking, Chief.
Unfortunately, you could talk to staff, or we could reopen.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we've already got it covered that there's going to be ladder access.
Mayor, can I ask Parker a question? Parker, can you tell us if we were to put that in the conditions to make those 2-story on that south side there instead of 3, how many units that would take away from their project? I just can't tell from looking at it.
Mayor and Councilwoman, I wouldn't be able to tell that. The applicant would maybe be able to get information, but
You know what, at that, I think we should reopen public hearing, and so that we have the opportunity to hear back from the applicant if we're going to be having these discussions. So I would stand for a motion to reopen public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so,
Mayor?
yes.
I just have a comment for clarification. So we're talking about stories, but I think we should be talking about overall height, not stories, because they could be 2 stories with 17-foot ceilings, or they could be 3 stories with 8-foot ceilings. So I think we should be talking about overall height, not stories.
We are. 30 feet.
Okay. So the specific question that you could address is if certain buildings were to be requested that they be two-story buildings, you would be removing the third. What would how many units would you lose?
Madam Mayor and Council, thank you for opening the public hearing. Yeah, there's quite a few things to address there. I think doing my quick math based upon because there's, the 2 different building types there, it's going to be 15, about 36 units lost, if not a little bit more. If you did that, my understanding is that would kill the entire project from a financial standpoint. It would not pencil any longer. And then in addition, all of the fire accesses, all of that has been vetted. We comply with fire code. And further, in this zone, this is not just a concept plan. This is a permitted by right use, so we will not have to come back for any other approvals. We can go straight to building permit. So there's no other plan to review in that sense until you get to building permit. So there will be no more public hearings. So I don't want that to get confused in a sense of like, oh, we can come back and ask for something later. This would be the plan, and this is the anticipated use and format and height and everything that we are proposing here.
Thank you. Yes?
So when you say 36 units, dwelling units, is that for buildings 8 and 9, or is that including 7?
It's including 7. It should be, because building A which is the longest building, is about 45 units. So it's about 15 each floor, give or take.
So how many units per floor on type C, building 5?
I believe it's 11. So 22 and 15, 37.
And building 5?
That's type
Type C,
C as well. I think that's also 11.
11 per floor?
Correct. 33 total building, for the
Okay,
building.
so if you were to add 2 more units to the south end of Building 5, times 3,
Mm-hmm.
that would be, what, 6 more?
Mm-hmm.
And how many units per floor on Building B? Or
15.
Type C? You said
Type C
it's
is 11, type A is 15.
Okay. I'm not trying to be your architect.
Yeah, it gets to be a game of Tetris, which is
Yeah.
frankly pretty late in the game at this point to be trying to do that. Just because I don't know the numbers.
I'm
but I know
sorry, you're coming before the council and asking for our,
Oh, yes, sir. Yes.
yeah. Telling me that it's late in the game, I'm sorry, I just don't have a lot of more to say, other than I'm trying to help you get your development passed.
Yes, sir.
So please don't put a guilt trip on me
No,
for
I
trying to do that.
apologize. That's not the intent at all, no, sir.
Okay, no, it just sounded that way.
No, absolutely not, sir. I apologize.
So, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name, Joe. No, you're
No, I'm
Patrick.
Joe. That's
You're Joe.
Patrick.
Patrick.
Yeah.
Patrick, would you like to make comment? Yes. And I'm sorry, I got your names mixed up.
Patrick Brama, I'm with Enclave. Thank you for the opportunity to connect again, and comments well taken. I understand the perspective with being close to the road there. I understand this is ultimately a council decision, but I'd just like to add some perspective on how we approach the project and how we got to where we are right now, and it may or may not be valuable. When we came into this project, we've done a lot of analysis on recent developments, comparable projects nearby, and to one of the council members' comments, a lot of the projects have maximum density jammed in, very rectangular, very dense, low amounts or minimum amounts of setbacks, minimum amounts of green space. We took a different approach on this project. We have larger than required green space to the west. We have larger than required green space in the middle of all of our buildings. We didn't go from maximum heights to the 60-foot a maximum. So we have intentionally done a lot of things on this site plan to try to respect the surrounding area. So I only bring that up in the context that if we are going to reduce building sizes, we do run into a math issue on our end. So if we went down that path, would there be, I guess I would just raise the question, can we then push back into the larger setbacks that we've provided against the neighborhood to the west to make up units or add buildings? I just wanted to open that dialogue and provide the full context of how we got here. The intention was not to smash stuff up against the road on the south side there. It was to respect as much as we could to the west and the existing single-family properties and provide a development that wasn't just smashed in Tetris crammed units. So maybe that doesn't help, but I wanted you to, it's been a journey since last November going through this with the neighborhood, and the intent was to do something good here that wasn't trying to jam maximum. So we're kind of at where we're at with this project now is that we've pushed everything back from a design perspective to the lowest amount possible to deliver the best product possible, and we're just at a tipping point, and it's not your problem. I'm just being transparent. We're at a tipping point financially where if I lose units, I'm just in a really tough spot, and I just want to be transparent. That's not your problem to solve, but it is the reality of our situation.
I think what I'm hearing is that if we do lose units, in order for the project to move forward, well, one, it's going to be somewhat of a major redesign. Two, you're going to have to lose green space. So the intent of the project was to provide really nice open green space, nice amenities, create a nice environment. And in order to do that, you have to go up in order to make it pencil. So if you don't go up, then you need to go out, and you're going to lose that green space and some of the amenities and what you had intended there, right, to make the project pencil. So just for clarity, I think that's what I understood. Is that correct?
That's a fair summary.
Okay.
Mayor,
yes.
just a quick comment, and I agree with President Haverfield on that would be the ideal. And I'm the one who's usually, like as Councilman here on my right, Victor, is these projects are challenging. This is a very, very nice project. And if I have a choice between neighbors having a little more space between them and a three-story than cars going back and forth, then I'm going to side with the neighbors every time. So at this point in time, I'll be voting in favor of this project.
Okay. So would you like to make a motion, Darrell?
We have to close the public hearing.
Oh, I guess,
Yeah, we
I'm
have to close it.
sorry, I forgot we
No, I'm going to
opened.
let Victor make that since.
Okay, so I guess we're not ready, so public
Before you
hearing.
close the public hearing, can the applicant come back? So you made a comment about the separation to the folks to the west.
Yes, sir.
So that 100-foot setback there with your retention swales and such, was that kind of is that why there's not a lot of people here tonight in opposition to this project? Because that was one thing I noted as well, is that there isn't a lot of neighbors. We've seen that on other projects come forward. Is that part of the sell that you had as far as to get their buy-in?
Sure. Yeah, great question, Councilmember.
If I may stand in, because is it okay if I reply to that, Councilmember? It's important because we take a lot of pride in how we design projects and how we attempt to respect the community and the neighbors. That was the first thing we did with this project. When we realized that there's single family to the west, we reached out to city staff, had a preliminary staff meeting. We did research on other projects, and what we did want to do was bring in a project that does bare minimums. And we know that one of the biggest opposition factors that you get on any multifamily project is being pushed up against single family neighborhoods. So we consciously stretched that out as far as we could while making the performa work with a unit count that works, and that's how we ended where we did today. That's why you're seeing what you're seeing today. So that was really the whole impetus behind this design, was to respect that neighborhood to the west. And I can't speak on their behalf, but I was at the neighborhood meetings, design review, planning commission. That's my personal interpretation. The reason why we haven't received an overwhelming amount of opposition is because we tried to tackle that up front and offered to meet with the neighborhood or individual people as needed along the way. But that's my personal opinion. I realize that's just my
No, I appreciate that. Do you value these units? What is the value per dwelling unit? Is it 250,000? What do you use as far as your multiplier?
Construction costs are about 200,000, all in total project costs about 250.
I've heard it ranged between 250 to 300, depending on who the builder is. My concern, again, just so that you're aware, I like the project. As an architect, I think this is what I look for. The only thing that I've seen, and this council has wavered on certain things at times, that's where I'm trying to get a feel for what is acceptable.
Yep.
We have an apartment project on Colorado that are two-story, that are only set back off of Colorado by 25 feet, and it's just a two-story building. They just appear to be very large. Adding another story, making it that tall right along a major arterial like this, that's where my concern lies, is just the appearance. But if we're developing something that's more meant to be a downtown type feel, 3 stories are fine around a university campus. It's perfectly fine. It's just a major arterial, and that's my concern. So nothing about you and the time you've spent on this. I'm sure you've spent a lot of time and effort and cost. So I appreciate your efforts in that regard. So I just want to make sure we're doing right by the city.
Councilman Haverfield, I agreed totally. And even from your design perspective, get it. In a perfect world, we would do that, transition the height, et cetera. That's one of the first things that I had reviewing the project with the developer was regarding that. So definitely understand that. And to your point, we want to develop and propose a good project for the city of Nampa too. So
Because I value this thing at about a $75 million project, right in that range. So, it's definitely going to help the tax base. So thank you for choosing Nampa.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for hearing us, truly, and appreciate you opening the public hearing to have the discussion. That's my favorite part of the job, to be honest with you. So I very much appreciate it.
Is there any other discussion needed? Questions for the applicant, or discussion that will involve the applicant before we close public hearing again? Okay, I would stand for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, I will make the motion.
Okay, if you'd like to.
I move to approve the annexation and zoning to RMH multi-family residential zoning district on 18.59 acres for the NWC Cherry and Canada Roads multi-family development at 0 and 0 Canada Road for Kimley Horn representing Syndica with all conditions listed in the staff report and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in this staff report.
Second.
Could I ask a question? Real
Yes.
quickly. Should we, in a development agreement, in case something were to shift, just make note of the discussions regarding the fence, the irrigation wall being secured, the access to sewer, and the egress compatibility? Should that be stated in those items that were brought forward? Should those items be identified in a development agreement, or are they resolved to the extent that they don't need to be? Or is it maybe just even the fact that the discussion was there? Does that cover that?
Mayor, from the public works side of things, those are all things that we review in the building permit application process and would already be addressing the access to sewer, the ingress egress and all of that.
And I'm talking for the neighboring property.
Right, yes. We would be looking at that for the neighboring property, making sure that we have access to the sewer, that we have
But the fence-
access, that kind of stuff. The fence and that type of things, those are certainly things that, you could put in the development agreement, but at the same point, there are also things that could be reviewed and approved with the building permit as well.
And I think they said they would accept all those, right?
Okay.
We're good.
Okay, I just want to make sure that it's done. Okay?
Okay.
So I think I have the nods from everybody, and you're of record saying it's going to get done. That's what's important. Okay.
Mayor?
Perfect, yes.
You're just making sure that it's on the record, though.
I'm making sure it's on the record.
Please.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So it is on the record.
Yes.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Brunner,
Yes.
Reynolds,
Yes.
Hammerfield,
Mayor, I'm going to vote in favor.
Jingula,
Yes.
Rodriguez.
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you. That was a long hearing, but I think we got through it, so thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to our third public hearing. This is an action item. This is annexation and zoning to RS6 and a potential development agreement for a 1.53 acre parcel with assigned addresses at 2226 and 2230 West Orchard Avenue. This is for Ken Cook, Timberline Surveying, representing Kenneth Roberts. Is our applicant here this evening? Good evening. Go ahead and give us your name and address. Good night.
Good evening. My name is Patty King, representing Timberline Surveying, representing Ken Roberts. Mr. Roberts has put an application for annexation
Madam
so
Mayor,
that he can
Yes.
split
Okay, hang on one second.
Point of order, could you please do your address?
847 Park Center Way, number 3, Nampa, Idaho, 83651.
Thank you.
Sorry. We're the land surveyors representing Mr. Roberts. He came to us looking to split his one parcel into two, simply due to the fact that it currently has two addresses and two existing homes, and he just wants to have two parcels, two tax IDs, in order to kind of split it into for personal reasons, not for development or anything like that. That's about it. Pretty simple compared to everything else we heard tonight.
Okay, so there's already two addresses.
That's correct.
Two homes.
Yes.
And he wants it into two parcels, just to
Exactly.
represent those two homes.
Yes.
Pretty straightforward.
Yes, exactly.
Great, thank you. Thank you for waiting so long this
No,
evening
thank
for
you.
that. Thank you. Okay, so whose is this evening? Rodney, it's you. I guess it's stated there, it's you.
Mayor and council, as you said, this is really very simple. So I'm not sure I need to add too much except to say that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval. I could go through the comp plan and the zoning and the areas around it, but
It's all in our
I
packet.
think it's all there. So just for the record's sake, I'll just kind of slide through these different slides. There's the layout of the parcel that would be split.
Can you go back
And-
to that?
Yep,
I didn't see that in our packet.
yeah. We're ready to issue the letter of approval for the split.
Mayor?
Yes.
So Rodney, is that an easement across parcel 1 to get to parcel 2, or is it actually a flag lot?
Yep, as you can see on the site plan here, it is an easement.
Okay. So that's a legal instrument as far as that they're both bound to.
So conditions by the engineering division. My analysis, pretty straightforward. Conditions of approval, findings, and then the motion for your consideration.
Okay. Are there any questions for Rodney on this one? Thank you, Rodney. Do we have anyone signed up?
Madam Mayor, we do not have anyone signed up.
Okay, is there anyone here that had intended to testify on this particular issue? Seeing none, this is an opportunity for our applicant to come back up and make any closing comments, answer any questions. Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for the applicant before we close public hearing?
This is going way too easy.
We'll just keep it going there.
That's right.
Okay, so I would stand for a motion to close public hearing. Motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, council discussion and motion.
Mayor?
Yes.
I was just wondering, the plat that was on the screen, why that wasn't in our packet, or was it meant to be in the packet and just didn't get in there?
Mayor, I'm not sure. I thought I put it in there, so I'm
I don't see it either.
not sure how to respond to that.
Well, I just, for future
Yep,
consideration.
it'll be in the future.
Thank you. I'll make the motion to approve the annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district and a development agreement for 1.53 acre parcel as listed in our packet. That's really, with all conditions of approval as that we have.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, I do remember the reason. Sorry for the delay. So this, I didn't have anything with that lot split until I spoke with Parker, and he had just received the lot split after I had submitted the staff report, and we had loaded it up to the website and everything. So that's why it's on the screen. It was on the screen, but not in your packet.
So Mayor, Rodney, was that an approved plat or is that just a preliminary?
It's not a plat, it's a lot split, and it's a preliminary because we can't approve that until you have made a decision here.
Okay. Yes.
Madam Mayor, just a point of order. If I could ask the motioner, did they want to also include those last lines of to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the second? Okay.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded and reclarified. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you. Okay, so we're ready for 8.4. This is an action item, and actually, the action item is annexation and zoning to an RS6 zoning district at 19628 and 0 Franklin Road. And this is for Sabrina Durchie, representing KB Home of Idaho, representing the owner, Linda, I think it's Noggle. So the applicant has requested a continuance to July 17th. And so I would request a motion to continue this item to the July 17th meeting as requested by the applicant.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Madam Mayor, we did have,
there were some people that left.
okay, because they were signed up, but I believe they were the applicants.
Okay, and yeah, I let them know that we would be, and so they're no longer here. Okay, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
So we're moving on to unfinished business. And I just want to double check the gentleman here. Are you here for something in particular? I just want to make sure you didn't miss something. You're just here to listen.
It's my brother.
That's your brother?
Yes,
Did
my
I do
brother.
this last time?
How could he be that young?
Don't you like a call out? I am so sorry. I just wanted to make sure you weren't waiting for something that was over.
Well, he said he was going to come, and he did, so.
He's serious.
Well, that means he got all the looks.
He's definitely a better golfer than I am.
Oh, my. And we've met, I just didn't remember, I'm so sorry. Okay, so let's move on to unfinished business. So item 9.1 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance for annexation and zoning to Gateway Business, GB1 zoning district, for a 16.71 acre parcel at 15918 Star Road. This is for Barron Properties, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Napa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 15918 Star Road, Napa, Idaho, County Parcel R30477, comprising approximately 16.70 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Napa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Napa and be zoned GB1 Gateway Business. Declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the City of Napa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Napa and to designate said property as GB1 Gateway Business on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation subject to the terms of that certain development agreement between the applicant and the city, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
Mayor Kling, I'll make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Ingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 9.2 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance of vacation of 20 feet of a 30 feet, boy, wide right-of-way easement that no longer serves a city or agency purpose in order to build an accessory building, and this is at 2634 Wagon Wheel Road, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Napa, Canyon County, Idaho, vacating 20 foot of a 30-foot wide public right-of-way easement located on the property generally described as 2634 Wagon Wheel Road, Napa, Idaho, County Parcel R27543, more particularly described below in Napa, Canyon County, Idaho, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map and other applicable maps accordingly, providing for an effective date, providing for severability, and repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, and parts thereof in conflict herewith.
Madam Mayor, I move this pass under the suspension of rules.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Jingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
9.3 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance of annexation and zoning to two-family residential zoning district at 905 North Midland Boulevard, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
In ordinance of the City of Napa, Idaho, determining that certain lands commonly known as 905 North Midland Boulevard, Napa, Idaho, County Parcel R3136, comprising approximately 1.33 acres, more or less, lay contiguous to the limits of the City of Napa, Canyon County, State of Idaho, and that said land should be annexed into the City of Napa and be zoned RD two-family duplex residential, declaring said lands by proper legal description as described below to be a part of the City of Napa, determining that said annexation and zoning are in the best interest of the public and consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, directing the city engineer and the planning and zoning director to add said property to the official maps of the City of Napa, and to designate said property as RD two-family duplex residential on the official zoning map and other area maps of the city, providing for recordation subject to the terms of that certain development agreement between the applicant and the city, providing for severability, providing an effective date, repealing all ordinances, resolutions, orders, or parts thereof in conflict herewith, and directing the city clerk to file a certified copy of the ordinance and the map of the area to be annexed with Canyon County, State of Idaho, and the Idaho State Tax Commission pursuant to Idaho Code Section 63-215.
Make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Brunner?
Yes.
Ingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Item 9.4 is an action item. This is the first reading of ordinance of the City of Napa confirming the assessment role for the local improvement district number 167, and it is requested to pass under suspension of rules.
An ordinance of the City of Napa, Idaho, confirming the assessment role for local improvement district number 167.
Make a motion to pass the ordinance as read under suspension of rules.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Pingula?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session, and I will say this concludes the regular business meeting items. And so I would stand for a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 742061 to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Pingula?
Yes.
Haverfield?
Yes.
Reynolds?
Yes.
All in favor, motion carries.
Why don't we move into the conference room? That'll be faster. So we can just quickly go ahead and move into executive session. So.
That'd be faster for you.
Where's he live?
Achilles way.
Achilles tendon.